Oh, it also might help if I have audio going on.
Oh, yeah.
We're doing it live, people.
Yep. Hold on one sec. Just need to format the card. Work with me, you little piece of technology.
That's the best insult I've ever heard. You little piece of technology.
Well, that's
Bart
me.
would have used it.
Yeah, that's basically me trying to control myself so that I don't start swearing, because I have to be careful since my niece is staying over tonight. So,
Ooh, yeah.
yep. I mean, she is well behaved somewhat, but she's still at that point where she'll imitate what people is saying. And dare to
Yeah.
say what people is saying, oof, it's been a long week, people.
It has.
Sound speed.
All right, and I am good on this end. So, welcome everybody, even though we had a delayed beginning. Welcome everybody to Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions, the weekly show where we talk about all the weekly events in Geek. It doesn't matter if it's tech or gaming, or if it's movies, it's TV, it's anime, it's comics. If it's geeky, we're probably going to talk about it, and we welcome you guys wholeheartedly. I am your host, Adam Mickelson, aka Drac. I hope everybody has had a good weekend. You know, we're just another week into December, and thankfully, if people can read my little byline, one more week, people. Technically, like 3 or 4 more days, but one more week, people, and then the dream that has been on many Star Wars fans' minds will finally be available. It's just too bad that George Lucas can't appreciate it with you. So first of all, welcome you guys. I hope you guys are all having a great week. Not so much. I've actually been down for most of the week. I thought I had a head cold, and then it turned out to be bronchitis, actually. So I basically got a wonderful little order from my wife, basically saying all of your work this week, until you're over this, it's scrubbed. It's scrubbed. You can't do any of it because you need to get over this. And I'm like, okay. So instead, I've been catching up on my Netflix, and you can already tell that I have way too much time on my hands when I'm actually able to get through Daredevil Season 1, S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 2. I'm almost done with Flash Season 1, and I'm moving on to Arrow Season 3. That's a lot of time, people.
Indeed.
But I am, of course, not alone. I am also being joined by my fellow panel of YouTube content creators, and you guys might notice that it's a little sparse tonight. So let me go ahead and give a couple of questions here, some answers. Alex, unfortunately, will not be able to make it tonight. He is working, and unfortunately, he is the worst of us because he actually has to work retail, and during the holiday season, that sucks. So we actually afford...
'Tis the season to be trampled.
Yes, it is, and people get mad when I make the joke of let's go ahead and get some football gear for Alex. It's not a joke. We're trying to make sure he can survive. So we technically give Alex a little bit of leeway during this time of the year because he kind of needs it. We also do not have Aldo. Aldo is going to be a little late. He's having some troubles with his internet, and as soon as he can join, he will join. But I'm also being joined by Stephen Romney, aka of Studio, or well, I don't know why I did the AKA of Studio Ghost, aka Studio Phantasma of Romney's Reviews, which you've had a lot of reviews go up in the past week, and also from the shelf. And I think you also said you had some other things going on aside from Monster Clash.
Well, sort of. I mean, Monster Clash is my October thing. From the shelf is kind of my way of transitioning some of the Monster Clash stuff into stuff that doesn't tie to Halloween, but it's also an excuse to actually watch some of the DVDs that have been sitting on my shelf for who knows how long. And I mean, I've got plenty of DVDs also sitting here on my desk that I need to watch. I mean, this is why I pull out the Record of Lodoss Wars DVDs, because they've been sitting here because I have no room on my shelf. So
that's what happens when you're a geek, though. It really is, because at some point you just start running out of room. I'm already starting to have that problem, and we actually might have some room open up in the next week or two. And it's just like, okay, what stuff can we put in there? Because 80% of that space is going to be baby space. But I've got to find a way to put in these books or these DVDs or these games. And what might actually have to happen is that I have to make one giant trip to GameStop to get rid of some of the games I don't necessarily want to own anymore. Or movies or anything like that for that matter.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming you've had a good week, at least for the most part.
Well, so. I mean, work has been work. I mean, without giving too much away for the audience, my job deals with insurance. And, well, we've got a lot of people going for open enrollment, people trying to get coverage before the new year so that they don't have to pay the tax penalty, which this year has gotten higher. I mean, I did the math, and based on how much I make, I'd have to pay $540 if I don't have coverage for the new year as part of my tax penalty. So it's been a real bit of a pain. So that's really what it's been like, working like long hours. I mean, it's a good thing I'm paid hourly. Otherwise, I'd go completely insane.
Yeah, we're already having to deal with that. Not so much the not having insurance, but not to go into too much detail, but we're having a little bit of debate because certain things our insurance doesn't cover, and frankly, we don't see a reason to get that coverage, but we're going to get docked because we don't have all-encompassing coverage, which is dumb. But you know, it's one of those things where the stuff that we don't have doesn't apply to any of us in my family. It doesn't apply to me. It doesn't apply to my wife, and it certainly doesn't apply to my kid. So
yeah, and like between the stuff with the insurance and just the enraging headlines from around the week and some of the very frustrating conversations I've been having, thus the tagline here, which, well, flame shields up, people, Che Guevara is not a hero. Stop worshiping him as such. That is all we will say on the matter, because that is not what the show is about.
It is not. Not unless Che Guevara was in a comic where he fought off Nazi T-Rexes, which is probably a thing.
Well, his daughter did appear in some, racy PETA campaigns, but that would be like the only.
Speaking of Che Guevara fighting off Nazi T-Rex robots, Aldo! Oh my gosh! That's a horrible lead, and I am so sorry, Aldo.
It's fine. I couldn't even hear you because my headphones were not connecting.
I think I've just found the title for this week. Nazi robot T-Rexes.
Yeah.
Are we talking about Kung Fury?
Can we talk about Kung Fury? I have never seen Kung Fury.
Oh.
Neither have I.
Oh,
I've seen Kung Pao, but...
Oh, Kung Fury. Oh, do yourselves a favor and take a half an hour to watch it on Netflix, YouTube, Vimeo, everywhere. It is everywhere.
Sold, sir. Sold. It's not like I'm spending 80% of my week on Netflix. It's not like I can't do that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Like, didn't Hasselhoff do the theme for that?
Not the theme. He did a collaboration song with them. I don't think it's the theme. It could be. I could be wrong.
So, speaking of which, we have Aldo Gomez of Board Offline, of Reviews versus the World, of every stinking thing that Aldo does. I was actually going to put in Anime Overdub ES. Are you still doing that? I can't remember.
It's on hiatus.
Okay. I was going to say, like, with Aldo, things bloom and die, and then they bloom again, and then they go into hiatus, and I can't keep track of the massive list that he has things going.
Yeah,
so
I can't either.
Hopefully you've had a good week. I'm a little concerned because Aldo coined a term for me and him this week, and that was Bronc Bros, because I'm guessing we both had bronchitis.
Yeah, or something like that. I refuse to go to the doctors, so I don't actually know what I have, but I'm assuming it's bronchitis.
So I'm kind of so are we the super Bronc Bros or something?
I don't think we went super quite yet, and I'm happy for that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that would not be a good thing to be super at.
I don't know if I would want to be that. All right, so we've got a couple of things to get into this week, so let's go ahead and get things started. Now, I will also be honest, a couple of stories have bled over from last week into this week. Why? Because those stories broke literally about 1 to 2 days before we hit the podcast, and so at that point, agendas were already set, and so now we're going to be covering them because we've had a ton of people actually ask us to cover them. But not only that, I also need to address one little bit of business. So we tried to keep this under the rug, but we actually did get a listener asking us about this, why we were showing up on another YouTube channel, and it didn't look like anything major had been done. I'm not going to go too much into the details here, but the only thing you need to know is we got pirated. One of our videos got downloaded and got re-uploaded onto this channel, and
which they call themselves like news something.
Yeah, it was like news media or something like that.
It's so weird.
And so, and the best part was like, I was in it. Like, I actually looked up this channel, and I was amongst hearings for Ted Cruz in the debate, Donald Trump news. There was nothing geek-oriented at all in any of it. But this guy took our video.
Did the guy think it was like a newspaper, like cutting out like sections and?
I wish we could say that, but he literally took everything about the video from minute 1 to minute A to B and just put it up.
It was so weird.
So at that point, I'm just going to address that really quick. We've addressed that. We submitted a complaint to YouTube. The video, to my knowledge, has been taken down. So you guys can still get your Geek News reviews and opinions all in one place. It's not like somebody actually, or the person actually thought we had worked out a deal with this news media, and now they were showing our stuff. No, that's not the case. I got no email from the people. I got no notice whatsoever. I think, did I end up sending that? I was going to send like a formal thing saying, why did you take my video? And then I just said, you know what, screw it, and put in the takedown notice, because I got nothing in the email from him. So with that, yes, we haven't worked anything else out. Geek News is still staying here. It was just pirates.
Yep. Drac2326. Accept no substitutes.
Unless there was that one episode that Romney hosted and then that one other episode that Alex hosted. Do I need to call you guys pirates now?
Yar.
With a geek pirate crew?
I'll tell you, Aldo, one of these days, like on a Pirates Day, we ought to all just be dressed up like pirates. Throws things off. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the first story this week. And this actually broke like 2 days before. Alex actually was the one that presented it, so it's a little odd not having him here just because but frankly, I know what he'd be doing on his end. He'd be doing his little Montgomery Burns hand rubbing, because he likes bringing up any story that involves a certain female voice actor that Drac likes. Not likes, but likes her work.
Uh-huh.
And it just so happens that a little bit of controversy came up around this actress. So the Uncharted 4 voiceover, I think, is pretty much done, and a decision was made by creative director Neil Druckmann, and he already admitted that where a new character in the Uncharted series, I'm trying to think, do they actually have a name for her?
Yes.
Nadine Ross.
Nadine Ross. And let's just, I really wish I had an image of the woman, but basically, she is a woman of the black-skinned variety, and it just so happens that when they actually cast her, they had an actress, Ashley Johnson, or I believe it was Ashley Johnson, who ultimately couldn't play her. It didn't work out, and so they brought in actress Laura Bailey to play the character, and it worked out. They actually got what they wanted out of it, and Neil Druckmann kept her on as this character. And I don't think Neil has regretted it yet, but he's already getting a little bit of flack for having a white girl play a black woman. I'm not kidding. It's not in this Kotaku article, but in another article from a more controversial website actually makes that argument. How dare you have a white girl playing a black woman? First of all, I think they're both women. I'm not trying to bring the war on women to Geek News shores, but if we're going to have that clarification, let's just go ahead and have it. And I'm going to address the elephant in the room right now. Yes, I am the president, vice president, and secretary, apparently, of the Laura Bailey fan club. If it has Laura Bailey in it, I'm probably going to watch it. Or play it. Or whatever. Okay? I have listened to the footage that I was able to find. There's not a whole lot, because obviously Uncharted 4 hasn't come out yet, but they did enough to introduce the character, and I didn't have a problem. It's to me, it's work.
And the voice acting director did state that they actually have the same opposite. That's such a weird sentence. They had the opposite situation for a different character, but it was a white character being voiced by a black voice actor, and he said nobody's worrying about that.
Yes. That's the other irony here. Guys, to voice actors, it's work. Mm-hmm. It doesn't, like, I will play a black guy. I will play a Hindu guy. I will play an Asian guy. As long as you think I can fit the voice, I'll play them. And I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I don't feel dirty and have to go shower at the end of the day because, heaven forbid, I'm playing an Asian guy. I don't care. Like, I'm trying to get into voice acting myself and doing my own work. I have no problem with this. And I have no problem with a white guy playing a black, or a black dude playing a black or a white dude, and the opposite for a woman. I have no problem with this, and frankly, given it's Laura Bailey, I think you're going to get a good product out of it regardless. I really shouldn't use the word product when I'm talking about a woman. But
yeah, point being, that's the thing with voice acting, is that you can have actors voice characters that they don't normally look like in real life. Now, again, on the table, and I know people are going to bring this, oh, you're a bunch of white guys. Actually, I'm technically Hispanic, so you can't use that argument on me, and it's a voice actor. That's the thing. You have voice actors often playing characters that they aren't of the same race, but it doesn't matter. You're not seeing what the voice actor looks like. You're seeing what's being animated on screen. This is not like a short circuit scenario where you have a white guy trying to play a Hindu guy. This is a case of, well, it's voice acting. That's just the name of the business.
Yeah, I mean, if we were talking about a live-action movie where Laura, well, first of all, Laura Bailey wouldn't be anywhere near it, but like where she had to have her skin tone darker or whatever to fit the role, that'd be a little weirder. I don't know if I'd necessarily be behind it, but since it's the voice of this character, all I really care about, because at that point the performance changes. And the performance is really just in how you personify this character and everything about him or her. So at that point, it's a whole different animal. I'm glad you brought up Short Circuit, because Short Circuit is one of those examples why this doesn't work if it was live action. It just feels weird. But in this case, it works. And I've listened to the audio of this woman, at least from what I could be able to get snippets of. I have no issue. I think Laura Bailey did a good job with what she had, and the people need to get off her back. She gets hired to do this all the time. I mean, the example that a lot of people I actually saw, and believe it or not, I can't even believe I stepped into the realm of 4chan to do my research, but people actually got mad because a lot of people thought that Laura Bailey does nothing but play Japanese schoolgirl characters. And that's not true. Yes, she did for a while, but she's done so many other roles since then.
Yeah.
So at that point, it's really not... Sure, she plays the occasional schoolgirl character, but there's so many other things in her portfolio at this point.
And even then, it's not just her. I mean, and I'm pretty sure there's tons of examples about this. I mean, heck, if you want to get really specific, I'm pretty sure every black man in Japanese anime, in Japanese dubs, is voiced by a Japanese man, who are very obviously not black people. But
yeah.
to hit a more local point, and nobody gets offended because nobody cares unless it's about video games. But the voice actor for Cleveland Brown from Family Guy, voiced by a white man.
Yep.
Seth MacFarlane. Yep.
No, it's not
At
Seth
least I
MacFarlane.
think.
No, it's somebody else.
No,
Oh.
One
yeah,
of the few voice
somebody
acts
else,
he
but-
doesn't do.
Well, yeah,
I mean,
and
at the
a
same
better
time-
and another.
Sorry, go ahead, Romney.
Well, yeah, and another example of a case, and this is in gaming. I can't remember the name of the exact character, but in Mass Effect, there's a pivotal character. I think it's like Captain Anderson, who's
Yeah.
voiced by who's basically not African American. I think not exactly a white guy, but clearly Caucasian looking, and he's voiced by Keith David, a very prominent African American actor and voice actor.
Captain Anderson? He's black.
Again, I haven't played Mass Effect, but I just know that
Captain Anderson is
appearance-
black, but yeah, he is played by Keith David, and
Yeah.
And
And
the
what he
point
was
being,
saying,
though,
it's a
it goes to the key thing, though, that the appearance. Notice that. I mean, the fact that I wasn't sure indicates, like, yeah, it's voice acting, meaning that the character doesn't have to look exactly how the voice actor looks. I mean, even if you look at, say, off the top of my head, a character like, say, Solid Snake, who doesn't exactly look, who never really looked like David Hayter in all the iterations. And with the Phantom Pain, it's only different because they were using new technology. But that's really the thing. I mean, I get where it's coming from. I get the anger. I understand why it might be frustrating that there aren't a lot of, like, African-American female voice actors doing a lot of these roles. But really, it's a common problem with any production, be it video games or animation. You get who you can get. And who knows, maybe...
And it's one of those things also where I don't necessarily fault the creative director. You know, he gave this other person a shot, and it just didn't work out.
And you know, and here's the thing, though, like, and I don't want to go too long on this because I don't want to create controversy where there isn't any, but especially on the rise of the voice actor strike that, you know, may or may not have happened. I don't remember. The whole point is performance matters. So we're trying to make sure that voice actors are delivering a solid performance so they can get their due, so they can get, you know, what's deserved of them for their work. Now, when we start talking about that, I think the bar for quality gets higher because these are people that are going to be paid more money, assuming this all goes through. And not to be, okay. So I'm going to get hate for this, but what I'm trying to say is we can't give roles to people just based on certain criteria like skin color. These roles have to be given on the quality of their work. And I would rather have 15 different race individuals take over white roles because their performances are that much better than the opposite, you know.
No, and voice acting performance is key. And the bottom line, like, I have no problem with whatever race, with whatever distinction you want to make. I have no problem as long as that actor delivers the performance that character needs to provide. You know, like in the case of like anime, it's a lot of people don't even get this. A lot of times it's really rare when kids are brought in to play kids. It's sometimes it's people like Laura Bailey. But in the case of Full Metal Alchemist, it made sense to bring in how old was he? Like 9, 10 years old?
He was 12 years old when they did Full Metal Alchemist.
So at that point, it made sense, but I still remember the controversy where he couldn't come back and play the role. Dude, he'd gone through puberty at that point.
Yeah, they literally make fun of that. The OVA is like saying, it's called puberty, Ed. You should try it sometime.
Exactly. So at that point, really, it's very rare.
And even then, that was like a rare occurrence because Aaron Dismuke was already on the payroll at Funimation because they'd brought him in to voice Akito in the Fruits Basket dub. And so it's just like, okay, well, we've already got this voice actor on retainer. Let's bring him in. And to kind of bring it down to the key thing with any creative endeavor, be it film, animation, or video games, because it's something that people also deal with a lot. It's not a matter of just finding an actor. You have to find the actor, the one that you hear them do the role, you see them do the role, and it's like, that's the character. And that's the truth of it.
And here's the thing, too. Sorry, Aldo, I'll get this out and then do that. Another thing to also consider, like, a lot of people are getting on this creative director's case and saying, well, you wasted this actor's time. I don't necessarily see it that way because in a lot of cases, the director and the staff can have a vision for this character, and they may think they have found them in the tryout kind of phase, but then you can actually have moments where all of a sudden you get them on camera or you get them on mic, and they're still not what you want. And so at that point, you might actually find a different way to get that actor. I mean, this happens in Hollywood all the time. I still remember when Lord of the Rings was being filmed, before they brought in Viggo Mortensen to play Aragorn, they had another guy. And,
I think Stuart Townsend was his name that they brought him into.
And he was perfect as far as Peter was concerned until they started filming, and then he didn't really work, and so they talked to Viggo.
Actually, it wasn't even that. It was just that he either got injured or got sick and couldn't make the trip out to New Zealand. Now, there's even another classic example where Back to the Future, Universal said, "Oh, bring in Eric Stoltz. He's really like the hot talent right now." And again, a lot of it is hearsay, but the whole thing was that Zemeckis couldn't quite get the right comedic timing he wanted from Eric Stoltz, and so then he talked to Spielberg saying, "Hey, this just isn't really working," and so they let him go out and get Michael J. Fox, who he wanted initially. And again, it happens in Hollywood all the time. I mean, there's even been cases. I mean, Despicable Me 2. You had Al Pacino playing the villain, but then he, for some reasons that were undisclosed, left the project and said, "You know what? I don't want to do this role," and so in a mad scramble, they had to bring in Benjamin Bratt to redub all the lines because they were partway through production when Al Pacino left. But point being, actors get replaced, voices get switched all the time in animation, gaming, and film. It's just a fact of the business.
Sadly, it's part of the creative process. So, but I don't want to dwell too much on this. Aldo, let's finish up with your thought.
Yeah, and I was going to say, there's. And part of the reason why people like Laura Bailey and so many other people get so many roles of various huge diversity, doing anything from children to adults to people of different races, because they're good, they have the talent, and I think I don't think you said it best, but I think it's a funny joke, and it was mentioned at the Game Awards if anybody mentioned it, but Troy Baker went up on stage and the whole joke is that him and Nolan North are in everything. And he said, when people ask me for advice, what do I tell them? Buy a mic, make a demo, and then wait for me and Nolan North to die. and
pretty much.
When it comes to video games, those two are all over the place. Laura Bailey.
Laura Bailey's starting to get herself out into video games.
She does a lot of bit roles, but when it comes to anime, she has more prominent roles. So there's people like her, Tara Strong. These people just have huge variety and talent that you're going to see them everywhere.
Yeah, I was going to say, she has like an active contract with Funimation and one other anime company, I want to say.
And like we were saying earlier, if you were gonna force people into roles that they specifically have to fit into, you would not have had the amazing award-winning performance from The Last of Us.
Nope.
And that became glaringly obvious when they did a live stage performance, and you had a 25-year-old Ellie who is supposed to be like 12 or 14.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And you had a like early 30s I forgot Joel, when in reality his character is up in his 40s or almost 50s.
Yeah.
So
if we were gonna try, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm pretty sure you're gonna say exactly what I was gonna.
Basically, if we were to having to constantly have actors be the same age as their characters, we would have gone through like 50 voices for Ash Ketchum.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. or even like just think how that would change Hollywood, for crying out loud, because a lot of people don't realize this, but for your average teen romance or whatever, it's very rare when teens are brought in for those things. They're usually people like 18 into their 20s.
Yeah.
So at that point, that's what you got to do.
Yeah. There's an example of them trying to hold on to the same actor despite them literally starting to age out of the role, and that was the voice of Littlefoot for all of Land Before Time sequels. Like, you could tell it was actually it was straining his voice to try to maintain the falsetto because his voice was starting to change, and it sounded freaking weird.
It really did. But I'm glad you brought up The Last of Us, because, I have lots of complaints about The Last of Us, but the voice acting is not one of them.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's go ahead and move on to the next one, which is actually something we took on a piece of when we met last week. So PlayStation Experience was happening at that time, and so we were still collecting a lot of the information that was coming out of it. And one of the biggest pieces of that was all of the Final Fantasy VII Remake info that we got. So I'm gonna kind of rehash. If you guys want to know our legitimate thoughts on what we talked about, which was the game system and our viewpoint on, did we actually get into the appearance of the characters at all last week?
Not really the appearance. We mainly talked about how it may not be the same ATB system from the original, but we're not sure because we only saw a brief snippet, and it's not even the final product. It's like a tech demo, more or less, that we saw.
And since then, we've actually been able to figure out at least their line of thinking when it came to developing the battle system and the exploration system. There is a little bit, and people have gotten mad, and I don't know why, but there is a little bit of the 13 ATB system in there, but it's also being intermingled with stuff they're doing with Kingdom Hearts, stuff they're doing with Final Fantasy 15. I know that the ATB system has been migrated into 15 to some extent, and so you get a couple of those advanced features along with the older features that made 13 work. The Crisis Core system is being implemented when it comes to things like materia. So we're getting a lot there, and frankly, a lot of systems for me to keep track of. And to the people who want to give me crap about the joke that I made about if the cross-dressing quest actually happens and it turns out that Cloud looks like lightning, I still hold true to my thoughts on the matter. I'm going to laugh my butt off because that is accurate.
Which, for people wondering, I did actually find the source of the interview where one of the artists was told to just make Cloud as a woman for Lightning's design.
Yes. Thank you, Aldo. Thank you for finding that. It is legitimate. It exists. Mm-hmm. So at that point, for the people who want to send me hate mail and say, how dare you call the Great One Cloud Strife equal to Lightning. No, Lightning is a female Cloud. That's what she is. So with that said, we have a bunch more information to work with. And one of them has been getting a lot of flack. So in order to fit everything into this game, because Tetsuya Nomura has said numerous times, or in a couple of interviews at this point, that he wants to put as much in to this game as he can.
Or I guess maybe the more correct phrasing would be he wants to keep as much of the original game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be a little bit closer. So he wants to put as much of that in there as he can, and one of the decisions that was made is to make Final Fantasy VII Remake episodic.
Dun, dun, dun.
And a lot of people actually gave crap to Square Enix and say, what, do you think you're trying to be Telltale now? No! No, guys! They're just trying to... I mean, here's the thing. This is more being built as an action RPG, not a JRPG.
I think, if anything, this... I think for people that say, I want this to be as close to the original as blah, 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 you're getting
Which
your
you
wish.
Weren't getting, yeah.
Well, no, you're getting your wish, because the game was made on 4 discs.
Yes.
The only difference is they're going to charge you for the 4 discs separately this time around.
Yeah, and even then, like, they may not... Like, the way that they're actually dividing the episodes up, it makes sense, because they're basically taking those arcs and putting them all in order and importance to be able to make that work. So, like, for example, I don't know if it's actually been officially said, but one of the episodes would be the entire Midgar arc. So all of the stuff in Midgar, like or at least the beginning part of Midgar, because you do go back, but the beginning stuff of Midgar is all one episode. Guys, there's nothing wrong with this. This is a good couple of hours worth of content.
Plus, they also want to work in all the side quests and everything, which they would probably work into the individual episodes based on what locations the side quest side stuff was in the original game. Which it even says in the article, like, average playthrough with doing only story stuff, none of the side stuff, is 62 hours long for Final Fantasy VII. And if you intend to do absolutely everything in the game, then it's about 221 hours. That's a lot of content that they're wanting to keep. And trying to put that all on I mean, Blu-rays can only hold 50 gigs of data, people. So even if you were to get this on a console in a physical form, you would still have at least 4 discs, because that's a lot of data, especially given that it's not the simplified, blocky pixel stuff. That's like high-quality animation, high-quality cinematics. That takes a lot of space.
The graphics engine and even the graphics models have been so updated that when they were asked why didn't you just use Cloud from Advent Children, they said that model is technically outdated. That is a 10-year-old model, and that was a model made for film.
Yeah, exactly. And I do know that they actually did say that a lot of the characters, they use the Advent Children models as more of a springboard to say, okay, well, now we need to make these characters but make them younger. And so that's how we get the current Cloud in this one. That's how we get the current Barrett, which people have had problems with the current
I think it
Barrett.
looks fantastic.
I actually like the idea that, you know, if he's going to be the leader of a terrorist gang, do you really think he's going to be like a loudmouth in that role, or do you think he's going to be subtle?
Yeah. And so by the way, to add on to what Romney was saying about how big of a game Final Fantasy VII is, on Adam's and my favorite website, How Long to Beat It.
Yes.
They're saying that for a completionist run through of Final Fantasy VII, on average you're looking at 96 hours. At a leisurely pace, you're looking at about 300 hours.
Yep.
And for just the main story, we're looking at about 70 at a leisure.
Yeah. And here's the thing too, is like when they count the main story, they're counting as little grinding as possible to get you through the story and to competently get you to the end of the game. But when you look at like the 200 hours, that's all the level grinding, that's the materia grinding, that's the chocobo breeding, which, guys, I hate to tell you, some of these features ain't going to make it into the other game. Because it's not going to make sense for you to be doing chocobo breeding in this action RPG.
Especially if there's no overworld.
Well, I mean, you'll probably get the whole... we could talk about this game. I don't know why I'm doing like statute of spoiler limitations in my head, but they'll probably do the chocobo race to free yourself from Corel Prison. But... And maybe Chocobo Racing will come back as more like a side game, but are you going to be doing like intentional Chocobo breeding to get yourself the Knights of the Round? Probably not.
I honestly, I would not be surprised if they replaced most of the story-centric Chocobo sequences with Cloud's motorcycle.
Could be, yeah. I'd actually like to see them do that, because bringing a motorcycle out of nowhere where it had maybe one section in the game to it, and we find out he's named it and all that, I would actually like to see a lot more of that done. Yeah. Or even better, like have the motorcycle, but also maybe have the van that apparently they were driving. Like, I love the explanation for what's happening for all the party members that aren't in your party is that they were just in a van and they were cruising around. I'd love to see that van too.
How great would it be every time you switch party members, that van just drives onto the scene. People jump out of it, people go back into it, it just drives away.
Well, apparently
it's what they do in Dragon Quest. In Dragon Quest, you have the wagon, and literally the members that aren't in your party are waiting in the wagon.
Yeah, I mean, well, they apparently have shown the van. Somebody actually was telling me, because I didn't notice this, in Dirge of Cerberus, in one of the cutscenes, where you get to see the party kind of come together again, there is a van right next to the motorcycle. That's the van that they drove.
I think they come out of the van, if I remember.
Cloud comes out of it in the motorcycle.
Yes.
So that just blows my mind. So, yeah. For all the naysayers that have issues with the episodic stuff, I don't see a problem with this, because in a lot of cases, this is how you currently have to tell a story. And Final Fantasy VII, as much as I want to say it's not the greatest story that was ever told, it is vast. It is huge, and you want to be able to give all the emphasis that you can. And frankly, I actually would probably, like, if I could sit down with Nomura-san, I would say, take your time and make these episodes as good as you can. Because if you don't get the details right, or if it feels like you're screeching on by, you're gonna get crap for that. Like the perfect example that I was able to show a friend is, I love the fact that the Midgar arc is all one episode. And then I actually said, maybe another thing to do is, as an episode, like the next episode, you only do the Nibelheim story, like the story that Cloud tells, where it's all his perception of how these events unfolded. Maybe you like interject them with him traveling along the continent to get to Junin, but the main premise of that episode is the events in Nibelheim, because now you have to explain it.
I think for me the biggest question though is, are we going to be charged separately for these episodes, considering how big and vast they're saying that the episodes are?
And here's the thing, we don't know.
I'm curious if we're gonna get not just that, but if also like the whole Vincent Valentine arc and the Yuffie, those side arcs are going. I would hope that they're included, or are they going to be included as DLC?
Oh yeah, you're talking about like the because technically Yuffie, Vincent, and technically Kate Sith, although he is story implemented, they are considered side characters, and you didn't actually need them to move forward.
I totally missed not Sephiroth. What's his name? Vincent. I completely missed Vincent on my first run through.
Oh, most people did. Most people admitted it. And frankly, there's a lot there, and for as much crap as people give Dirge of Cerberus, I actually will give them at least a little bit of credit where they filled in the holes that 7 left for Vincent's story. And so it's also one of those things that I kind of hope that when we get to the Vincent episode, you actually do explain what happened with Vincent and why he looks the way he does, kind of thing. But that's just me. So I'm not against this. I don't know about you guys. I think this is actually a good idea, although Aldo does bring up a good point. Price is a big argument here, and I literally don't want to be paying $60 a game.
No.
Yeah,
I mean,
we learned our lesson from Ground Zeroes, people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, I wouldn't mind paying $20 per episode, assuming it was 40 episodes, because it's such a huge game. $80, I'm not saying I would like to pay $80, but I would be willing. And I think most Final Fantasy VII fans would probably be willing.
You're saying, so if this, let's just say for the sake of argument, this thing ends up being huge, and therefore you could technically have like a huge price tag to it, you would still pay the big price tag, or you would want them to scrunch that down?
I mean, if they sell it as a package deal, I would love for it to be scrunched down. But I'm saying on the assumption, and I mean, we don't know how many episodes there are yet.
Yeah.
But let's assume it's 4 episodes, 1 for each disc of the original game. If they did that, I would be willing. I probably wouldn't be happy about it, but I would be willing to pay $20 per episode.
Yeah. In reality, I actually would like to see them spread it out a little bit more, and I might be willing to pay about $10 per episode, just to make sure that they get all the details. If it went any higher than that, I'd probably be looking for like a pass of some kind. Oh wait, I'm sorry, I'm gonna blow the internet's mind here for a second, because a lot of people still send this to me. Yes, I'm playing the remake. I'm gonna play this game just like everybody else is, and I'm going to hold it to the exact same standard that I've said I will. Yeah. But that also means as far as price point. And I better have to pay like $100+ for a remake.
I'm not... Don't charge me for other people's nostalgia.
No, please. No. And frankly, the other thing, too, that I'm kind of worried about is that there will be some kind of like season pass made available, which will be absurdly expensive. And yes, it does give you access to all of the episodes when they're released, but I've also kind of noticed that when companies do that, they do tend to get a little lazy with their releases.
Yep.
And
Mhm.
Square Enix can't afford to do that. Like, Telltale can get away with that because we know we're going to get polish out of it. But with the 7 remake, there's a lot there.
That's a
and
high
we don't want it
standard.
screwed up. So I think we've pretty much hammered this as much as we can. So let's go ahead and move on from the 7 remake. And this one, we were actually kind of worried that Aldo would hightail and run, because whenever this particular individual gets brought up, he doesn't want to be within 10 feet of the story. And that is one Anita Sarkeesian. She seems to be a very active talking point for me throughout this year, and for the rest of us.
Yeah.
You know,
This
the one person on this planet who isn't allowed to have their own opinion.
Apparently.
Apparently so. But this time we actually don't have, like, a lot of people like, oh crap, what did the internet do now? It's not necessarily that. So apparently she's getting together with a couple of other female developers, Jacqueline Friedman and Renee Bracey Sherman, to create I'm not sure if it's an app or necessarily a program, but it's called Speak Up and Stay Safe, a guide for protecting yourself from online harassment.
Yeah, so it doesn't look like it's an actual app. It looks like it's just a safety guide that just lists a bunch of different... I actually have the website pulled up here, and so it's basically a website that lists different things like preventing doxing, recommended preventive measures, passwords and login security, stuff like that.
Yeah, they talked a lot of automatic stuff, so I wasn't sure if this was actually going to be a program in and of itself. And considering that Anita and a couple of these other people, I believe, are programmers themselves, it wouldn't make sense for them to be able to do stuff like this. But basically, the premise here is it's supposed to help out with exactly how Romney put it. If you get doxed, if you get DDoS attacks or anything like that, it helps you to, say, engage two-step authentication for all your logins, remove information from your online profiles that could possibly have sensitive information like your address so people can't swat you, or, say, send really nasty crap to your mailbox. And, you know, as much as we keep on bringing up Anita, it's one of those things. I bring up that we do get the angry emails every now and then saying, how dare you give this woman the light of day, but we don't get those threats, okay? We don't get the death threats, or
we don't get nearly a percentage or a fraction of what these people have to put up with.
Yeah, and the fact is, if we did, I'd probably look into this, because I would not want to give anybody any kind of inch into fulfilling this fantasy of theirs, of being able to give them an address so that they can find my local policing agency and have me swatted, or even, like, sign me up for a bunch of campaigns that I don't give a crap about. And we live in an internet society that does that now. So
yeah, because people are operating under the misguided thing of, oh, it's on the internet, it's not real. Well, it is real life. There's no way around it. It's real life, people. And so you really need to start acting and treating it as such, because while you could do it to other people, at the same time, they can do it to you. And
I mean, I love the argument that a lot of people make is like, well, in the internet you could be anonymous. You might not be able to be anonymous anymore if this crap keeps up, people.
Well, I mean, how many news stories? I mean, I don't know about you guys, but it feels to me at least once a week I hear about a story or two where people have posted anonymous threats and they get caught because your threat is not really anonymous, especially through services like Geek, which promises, you know, anonymous posting, but they keep all that information. It's not.
Yeah, because there's a lot of laws in place that are like mandatory reporting laws, where if there's like any signs of criminal activity, some of those services are required by law to report it to the police. And I know there's the whole issue regarding online privacy, but doing crap like this, you're just giving the anti-privacy advocates more fuel. And
That's really the issue here. Is as much as people want that online privacy, then you have these a-holes that are making the argument that we don't get that because apparently we don't know how to properly use it.
And
And
plus, even then, it's kind of the case of everything we do is tracked anyway, be it by Google or via various services. Anything we search gets tracked. Where we take our, where is it? Dang it, I don't have my smartphone here to show it for dramatic evidence, but anywhere where we take our phone, Google tracks the location. It's basically, we're being tracked regardless of what we do. I mean, we can take measures, but we can always be found. And that's the simple truth of it. I mean, if your credit card has an RFID chip, that can be tracked. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that Edward Snowden has brought to light, saying, you basically, if you have any computer, like any 12-year-old with a cell phone can pull up information on you. That's the society we live in. And so that's why people are having to take measures to protect themselves because, well, like Adam mentioned, there's too many assholes ruining it for the decent people.
Yep. I mean, one of the biggest red flags to me, at least this year, has been I didn't realize that employers were as active in this process as they were, but I've spoken since with a lot of friends and found out that, holy crap, I thought that potential employers would look maybe onto your Facebook and maybe glance at your thread. No, now they're actually like going through it in the last couple of months to see if you've said anything douchey, just to make sure that you are giving the personification that you are in your interview. That's where we're at, people. When you don't get that privacy, because at this point, even companies or banks or whatever have to actually look into you and say, are you what you say you are?
Or it's like, are you a crazy person? Do we have to worry about you going into the office one day and killing all the people on the floor over a mild tiff?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, for as much as people want to give Anita Sarkeesian crap for her viewpoints, this is actually a good move, and I compliment her for taking the step because, frankly, she's gotten enough crap this year that she didn't have to do anything for the internet. She doesn't have to do anything, and the fact that she's willing to actually set out this guide and help people to not go through what she's gone through, I applaud her right now. I think she's doing the major thing that a lot of people don't want to do, and being the bigger woman in this case, and saying, look, this sucks for everybody. Here's how you can prevent it. Because I've been dealing with it for who knows how long. So I'm going to compliment her for it. Does this mean that I prescribe to her viewpoints? No. I've still said very many times I'd love to. I have no problem with her whatsoever. I would love to publicly debate her. I really would. And I'd show her nothing but respect. But I have no ill will towards her. I do, and all the people who are swatting her and sending her rape threats and death threats, stop. You're not making your case. You're not making our case as gamers. You're making us just look like idiots.
Mm-hmm.
So
you're making us look like idiots. You're basically giving senators a platform to argue for stuff like CISPA or the Trans-Pacific Partnership. You're like all these things that they're trying to do to control the internet. You're giving them more ammunition. You're basically giving them more reason to say, see, we need to implement these censorship controls because this is what people are doing with it. And that's one of the big reasons why you guys need to stop doing this stupid crap, because they're making it hard to keep the internet free. That's why net neutrality is under such fire, because companies like saying, oh, well, net neutrality would allow people to do this and that. And, well, given that most of our senators have been in their positions since before the internet was common in household homes, you're basically giving them more jargon that they can throw at these senators to confuse them into thinking really, really stupid things.
And for all the people that are eventually going to toss this out to me, because I've made this claim who knows how many times, that for every 5 people on the internet, one of them is actually above 18. Most of them are teenagers doing this crap. And I still hold true to that concept. You know, these are teenagers that are doing this crap, and I still think there ought to be something imposed on them to some extent. But, again, there's still that one who's in his 20s. And knows better.
And there's some that are in their middle ages that are doing this stuff as well. I mean,
and
have any of you Yeah, have any of you seen Danger Dolan's like 10 shocking internet trolls that were caught? A lot of those people on that.
I think so. I've seen a lot of top 10s from him.
Well, yeah, the thing is that a lot of the people on that top 10 were over the age of 18. They were adults, and they were doing this crap.
Mm-hmm. And they know better. All right, so I guess Aldo gets the final thought on this one before we need to move on. If he has a final thought.
You know, good show. Like, no, I mean, you know, I don't think there is a better person to essentially be the spokesperson for internet harassment. Sadly, I don't think there's any person who has nearly as much experience dealing with this as her. So I think it's terrible that
maybe Zoe Quinn, but
not. I mean, Zoe Quinn doesn't get bomb threats for trying to go talk in public. So
they did just try to tie her under the Logan Act, though. So
yeah, I mean that's true.
Speaking of which, are you ever going to show up in my garage where I can actually put you in a cage, Aldo?
I'm not part of your system.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Honestly, though, like I do think it sucks that we need this, but I don't think there's a better person to help design such a guide.
No.
And if anybody needs help trying to figure out how to live on the internet, read Felicia Day's book, where she does talk about some of the harassment and some of the issues that she's had.
I forgot about that. That actually is another good resource. Okay, well then let's go ahead and move on into the next story here before we get even more trolls on us, and I really don't want to do that. I for as many stories as we covered on Anita, and we don't have any problem covering them, there's only so much you can go over.
Yeah.
So...
there's only so much we can say. Internet, stop doing stupid stuff enough times before we get exhausted.
Internet, here's your sign. So let's go ahead and get into the next story here, which is wow. I've seen people call them sellouts. I've seen them call them outright pussies. Pardon my French, but they've actually been called that. But Capcom has been getting a lot of negative feedback over a recent decision that they've been making regarding Street Fighter V. And it's similar to another story that we've been covering, at least the internet would like you to believe that. I don't know if it's necessarily all that similar. But it just so happens that the Street Fighter V producer, Yoshinori Ono, has actually been making some changes in the beta to Street Fighter V and trying to actually change some of the character animations in what he actually explains to be his effort of adding some realism to the characters, in essence.
Well, he didn't change the animations, but I mean, keep going.
No, but he's talked about doing it. So one of the examples that is brought up is, in case people didn't know this, the female wrestler R. Micah has been brought into Street Fighter V. I believe she's in the beta right now, isn't she?
I think. Well, I don't think there's a beta going on right now, but
she was in the last candidate.
Yeah, I think so.
I know that much. And for people who know how Micah looks, you know, she's a Street Fighter Alpha 3 character. She's been very suggestive in the past. And her outfit has probably gotten a wee bit more suggestive. I would actually say it's probably on par. But it just so happens that one of the animations that she would do for her, what do they actually call it?
Like their V attack.
The critical art activation. Basically, the final ability that you can just rail into an opponent with. It turns out that she actually had when she did this, she would actually slap her butt. And Yoshinori Ono has actually come on the record saying that they have actually decided to remove that because, at least to him, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for her to do that. So, frankly, he's gotten not necessarily threats, but people have been saying, well, but that's our Micah, that's what she does. I can't believe you're even going down this road. It's like DOA X3. Yes, it's been compared to DOA X3, people. This is how far we've gone. And I just... he's not doing it to prevent a censor. He's literally going and saying, look, my perception of this character doesn't have her doing that.
Well,
Yeah.
to be a little bit closer, though, he does say, well, because I think they included it in the first place, because I think that was kind of his original perception, but I think what his reason for taking that out, which, I mean, to be fair, it's not even taken out entirely, because she still does the animation. You still hear the butt slap.
Yeah.
What happens is the camera cuts it. The camera is angled differently to where you don't explicitly see her slapping her butt. But what he said is he wants the game to be more inclusive. And if there is any content that would make the game offensive or would make people uncomfortable, he wants to take that out because he wants the game to be inclusive. This could be either for moral reasons, this could be for controversy, or at the end of the day, it's a business decision to bring in more money.
And in all, and in essence, a lot of those, it could be one or it could be all.
Yeah.
He could be wanting to be inclusive. He also could be saying, character-wise, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But here's the bottom line, people, and I don't get why people are giving him crap about this. This game isn't released yet. This is still under his purview to say no, yes or no, this is going to be in the game. And I get that people have a passion for these characters, and I get that they love what's going on with Street Fighter V, but again, I want to put an emphasis down here. Just because you paid the $60 does not make you part of the creative team. I get that you like the butt slap, but it's not your call.
Yeah, and there's two other things to consider here, because with a game like Dead or Alive Extreme 3, its audience and its intent is very clear. It's obviously geared towards adults who like those kind of games, whereas Street Fighter V is a fighting game. It's not designed with the same audience in mind, thus why it's trying to be a bit more accessible. And there's also a cultural aspect to consider, because a lot of people may think, oh yeah, well, Japanese are all perfect, but another thing is that Japanese businesses do not like conflict. They try to avoid conflict wherever they can, especially where money is concerned. And so that's why it also makes sense that this would be a business decision where they're thinking, okay, well, we don't want to risk dealing with the backlash if that is a factor, and it probably is a contributing factor. It's a simple case of, okay, we don't want to deal with this potential backlash from the public, so we're going to tone down what we can while still being faithful to the product that we're trying to create. And that's just how it is in Japanese business, is because, well, conflict could basically be bad news for any businesses, it could sour relations, and so that's just probably the mindset that they're coming at this from, like saying, how can we mitigate some of the conflict that could arise from the very existence of a character like our Mika? And so they figure, okay, well, let's tone down what we can.
So, not trying to interrupt Romney here, but I actually did want to bring up, so this is, I'm guessing, I believe this is how she looks as in the game. This is at least the final model that they're going with at this moment. I was trying to find an actual scene where she does, like, slap her butt, but you can't really find one, at least as far as a still. So this is the character that is being portrayed, and for all the people who are screaming, censorship, censorship, guys, this is still the model. They're still going with this, and in fact, one of the things I found a little bit funny when I saw this story come up on our Geek News feed is not only was the butt slap removed, but they're still going with a swimsuit pack for the first little bit of DLC, which is going to have Ryu in a swimsuit, which is going to have Chun-Li in a swimsuit. I believe Cammy's also in a swimsuit. So it's not like this is a censorship argument. Capcom's still going to go with this stuff. It's just that they decided this is where they're going, or that they were going to take this particular thing out.
Which, I mean, this isn't the only change either. There was a Cammy change with her intro scene where she comes in, and the camera is, if it's a physical camera, it would literally be on the ground below her when she lands. And if you know Cammy's design, she has a leotard, and it's a very
it's like a very, it was like an ambiguous look at her crotch.
Yeah, and so they've changed that to where it's no longer that angle anymore.
Yeah, and a lot of people I think are giving, or I don't think that one got as much crap because people did feel like that disrespected Cammy, and a lot of people do hold respect for these characters. Same thing with Yoshinori Ono. He ultimately made the decision to take that camera view out. And here's the actual butt slap. I'm guessing. So let's actually see this. Oh yeah, I've never seen the Cammy animation. That's pretty bad.
Yeah, so I mean that's the very simple Cammy, not Cammy, Rainbow Mika is that little slap.
Rainbow Mika, yeah. And then we also got at the beginning the Cammy camera, and that guys, that for as much crap as people thought, we didn't give enough credit to Itagaki-san, because he wanted to keep Dead or Alive a more technical fighter and all that, and now it feels like the series is running away with him. Don't you think that maybe Ono's kind of seeing that with Street Fighter V and he's pulling it back a little bit? He wants these characters to be respected. I mean, to my knowledge, and maybe Aldo will have to correct me, Sakura still hasn't made it into the Street Fighter V roster. And
not that I know of.
Granted, she's probably a given, but one of the problems that comes with that character is all the upskirt shots. Maybe Ono wants to take a look at that and say, okay, let's reapproach this.
I mean, let's not go crazy here. Sorry, she's one of my favorite characters, so I would actually.
No, I love Sakura.
Not for being a pervert, but I would actually be a little sad if they took those away, because she wears like gym shorts under her shirt and under her skirt, and they're like, that's kind of the point, is that she's wearing sporty outfit under her school uniform.
Well, and frankly, I mean, if they're still going to do like a swimsuit pack, they'll put her in her gym outfit. That's a given for Sakura. But no, I agree with you. I think Sakura actually has a really good character premise. I love the fact that she's still trying to look up to Ryu and trying to be him. But one of the problems that has come up with that character is that, unfortunately, Western culture just doesn't look at the upskirt shots as a good thing.
No.
So
yeah, and another thing to consider is that, again, this is the next Street Fighter game, which means there could be changes in the story, that if they do change Sakura's costume, they could probably have an in-story explanation explaining that. Like, maybe, off the top of my head, let's say, for the sake of argument, she somehow finds Gouken and gets Gouken to train her, then maybe she probably would have a change in outfit to reflect that she became a student of Gouken or something.
But I like that she's trained by Dan. That's funny.
Yeah, but again, we've speculated on where the story might go in terms of Street Fighter before, but I think that's another thing to consider, is that we might see newer costumes just based on what they decide to do with the story, if they decide to do anything with the story.
I mean, heck, we've already seen a pretty big redesign for Ken.
Yes. Oh, do we have an image of that? I actually don't know if I like the redesign just yet, but I'm growing. It's growing on me.
I haven't actually seen it yet.
The only one that bugs me a little bit is it's Charlie, but it's not Charlie. The cyborg Charlie.
This is the new Ken.
This is the new Ken, and I'll admit, when I first saw it, I was not on board with it, but it's starting to grow on me.
My only complaint has been everybody's complaint, which is the hair.
Yeah.
I find it oddly fitting for Ken, though, because a lot of people tend to forget that he's basically what Paris Hilton would be if Paris Hilton was a guy and was obsessed with martial arts, because
this is true, yeah.
That's the honest truth, is that his family is basically the equivalent of the Hiltons in the Street Fighter universe, and so him having kind of a more sporty look, it fits him. It really does.
Yeah, so, and I actually do want to show it, because... And for all the people who are going to bring this up to me and say, well, censorship, again, I'm going to hammer this hard, because that's not the issue that's happening here. It's just a character choice. And I would actually dare say, like, for as much crap as we give the Dead or Alive series, I had it. Here we go. So I will actually say that this actually took the step that needed to happen, and it gave some female fan service. Because, I mean... Crying out loud, look at Ryu in this game. I mean, they didn't have to have him shirtless. And
I'm guessing somebody on the design team was watching Fist of the North Star when they came up with that design. I mean,
right?
The beard.
Dude, he looks
it's the Kenshiro beard. Like, literally, the Kenshiro beard from the movie.
Yeah, and it's not just that. I mean, Charlie, or what is his name now?
Isn't it like
I can't
Nash
remember.
or something?
Yeah, Nash. So, you have that character, but he's still got the open vest, and he still looks very manly. But we also do still have the female characters that are not getting any changes. I mean, for crying out loud, the new one, Laura, holy crap, man. She's got censorship on her, issues on her own, and I still like the design for it. Do we even know what her martial art is? Because I think the last time I actually looked into it, she was a female Shotokan fighter, and I'm just like, there are a lot of Shotokan fighters now.
No. I don't think she's supposed to be that because they've allegedly, quote unquote, have let go of all the Shoto clones.
Yeah, I mean they're gonna keep Ken, they're gonna keep Ryu, but now Ken and Ryu actually have distinct differences. Sakura is gonna happen. She's going to be in this game, and she'll be her own version. And I know that Akuma has not been confirmed yet, at least to my knowledge he hasn't. But he'll make an appearance because he's the frickin' devil in Street Fighter, so he's got to show up.
Apparently she does jujutsu.
Jujutsu.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like Matsuda Family Jujutsu is what it says on the page a little bit that I could see.
Or even better, Juri got confirmed for Street Fighter V. I don't think we've seen the Street Fighter V design for her yet, but I mean her Street Fighter 4 design is awfully kind of sexualized. So it's fair safe to say you're going to get that with. What was that?
It is based heavily on Jolene Cujo from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 6. So
sure.
And that character in and of herself was kind of sexualized a little bit as well. So
yeah, so at that point I can't really fault it. Here we go. This was actually what I was looking for, and then we're probably going to move on here because I'm trying not to stay on the subject too long. But this is actually the swimsuit pack. This is the Chun-Li outfit that's going to happen. So for all the people who are screaming, no, they're going to censor the crap out of this. Look at that outfit. That's Chun-Li, guys. That's Chun-Li. She's getting that, and Ryu's getting swim trunks. That's not the issue here. So, my bottom line is I agree wholeheartedly with any change that Ono wants to make because he is trying to make Street Fighter V an even better game than 4. A longer lasting game. I mean, I've seen him go on quote saying, he would love to see a similar concept to Killer Instinct where he releases a character a month, kind of thing for Street Fighter V. This is just the directions that he's going with, and sometimes with those character choices, some animations, some things get changed, and I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing. If anything, it improves on the character. It allows for them to have a backstory, which Street Fighter has been known for that. I mean, the fighters all have backstories. So,
some confusing, some that basically paint them as emo as Cloud Strife, but they put work into the backstories.
Well, yeah, and I think even one of the more ultra emo from Street Fighter 3 got confirmed, didn't it? One of the end boss characters, Aldo?
Yes.
Rainbow Dude.
No, not Seth. Yes, you're right. I don't remember who though.
Oh no, it wasn't your Rainbow Dude. It was his brother. It was Urian. He got confirmed on the roster.
Thank you.
So, all right, let's go ahead and move on. That's actually we have one more story for the tech portion here, and we're not going to stay too long on it because there isn't a whole lot to it. But this was another thing that got announced at the Video Game Awards, which is very. A lot of people have brought this up to me because they wanted to know what I thought of it, given my thoughts on the Shenmue announcement that happened at E3, and that is that at the Video Game Awards, Tim Schafer came out to announce. The Psychonauts 2 Kickstarter at the website Fig. Now, he came out and said that he would need a $3.3 million goal to bring out Psychonauts 2, a game that he's been asked for since the first Xbox days, because I think that was an exclusive to it before it got brought to PC and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So it's been a while since Psychonauts has been in Tim Schafer's mind. So he actually came out and said, we would love to be able to do this for you, but we need a $3.3 million goal to be able to make this work. Currently, they are at $2.5 million.
Yep, 76% funded.
There's roughly 75% funded. They have over 15,000 backers, and the one thing that people wanted me to bring up specifically was that this is not Kickstarter, that this is a new site called Fig. I do not know jack about Fig, and I tried to do my homework beforehand and couldn't really find an explanation aside from that it's a video game equivalent of Indiegogo.
Pretty much.
That's trying to be.
That's pretty much all it literally says is video game crowdfunding website. And so there's not really much else to say. There's not really anything different. It's basically yet another crowdfunding site, people. So
yeah, so I believe that it will work on the same premise that Kickstarter does, where there will be rewards if you donate so much money, and if it doesn't go through in, what was it? I had it, and I lost the figures. I think it's got like 30 days left. Yeah, it needs to reach its goal by January 12th. So if it doesn't reach it, then your money goes back. But I don't know. They've got a couple of weeks. They might be able to do it. Tim Schafer especially has that clout to be able to make it work. I mean, after all, he made Broken Age work on Kickstarter. So, and Psychonauts has been a game that has been asked of him for years, that people wanted a Psychonauts 2. And I actually have to admit, I am a Tim Schafer fan. I've never played the original Psychonauts. So I guess my viewpoint on it is good on you guys if you guys get Psychonauts 2. It's interesting that he went to a new site called Fig. I really wish I could say more about it, but it looks like a Kickstarter clone.
Yeah.
So it technically could be subject to the exact same problems that Kickstarter could be subject to. So good on you guys. I really hope you guys get what you want. I don't know if there's much else we can add to this aside from we'll update it if it gets funded or if it doesn't. So there you go. Let's go ahead and get into the entertainment portion here. And the stories that we have are bordering on the silly, and some of them are just outright creepy. We'll get there, people. We'll get there. The first one is, I didn't even know that this was even possible, but Quentin Tarantino has been approached about the possibility of a Kill Bill 3. Last time I checked, I'm going to have another nerdy confession here, boys and girls. I have never seen the first two movies, and that's not because of any ignorance or anything like that. I intentionally didn't see them, mainly because I do not like Uma Thurman as an actress. Let the hate fly. But I thought that Kill Bill Volume 2 provided closure to the story. Are you saying now that's not what happened?
I'm saying you're just missing out on.
Well, maybe what we'll have to do, because we keep on getting asked to do commentary tracks, maybe Aldo is just going to have to force me to sit down and watch Uma Thurman in a banana yellow jumpsuit.
Dude, it's like
stolen from Bruce Lee.
That's one scene. If you haven't seen it, you can't complain.
I'm just not a fan of Uma. That's really the only reason I didn't see this movie.
Adam, if you haven't seen it, you can't complain.
Okay, well, I'm not complaining.
Well,
I'm just a little confused. I thought Kill Bill Volume 2 was providing closure. It actually, she kills Bill. So,
and Tarantino even addresses that in the article, which we're looking at from Nerdist. Basically, like, he was asked why he would wait so long to make the sequel, and he basically said, I put the character through a lot. I wanted her to have this much time for peace. I wanted her to have some time with her daughter and not have to be on the genre machines. She could actually enjoy her life for a while. So it's not so much that it would be like, oh, it's like a direct continuation. It's just more there'd be a time skip to match up with how much time has actually passed since Volume 2. So Tarantino is aware of that, and it's probably almost a deliberate choice on his part.
Is it entirely possible that he could get Uma to come back, or all of the actors?
Oh,
I don't know if necessarily you need to bring Carradine back if he's dead, but
no, he's. I mean, you don't know, Adam.
I don't. I really don't.
Actually, I think Carradine did pass away, because I know that I think it might have been a couple. Yeah, and so it's kind of just. Well, I mean the actual actor probably passed away is more what I'm meaning. So.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Both of them passed away.
Yeah.
It also,
but
it also looks like a third Kill Bill movie may not necessarily be completely around the Uma Thurman character. It also would be around the Vivica A. Fox character. Nikki
no, it'd be because she's dead.
Oh, okay.
Because she's dead.
All
so
right.
pretty much everybody. So if the third movie, so the third movie would focus on the daughter of Vivica Fox's character who sees Uma Thurman kill her mother. So she tells her, if you want to get revenge, come after me. So that's what he was saying, is that the story might actually just focus on that girl instead.
Okay. So it would basically it would go off on its own particular story, which I don't know if I don't have a problem with this happening. I don't know why people some people actually brought this story to me and said, well, since you've brought hate to it before, I did back in the evening of Geekery days, and it's just because I'm indifferent to it. I'm not against Tarantino making movies, but I'm not a fan of Kill Bill. So, but maybe we'll have to make that change. As Aldo is saying right now, maybe we'll have to do a commentary reel where I get to watch Kill Bill Volume 1 and Volume 2.
Yeah, that's all. Those are films that are on my ever-growing list of films I still need to see. It's just, I was in high school when they came out, and they just didn't appeal to me. I mean, yeah, I was a fan of like stuff like action films and anime and stuff like that. Just the premise of Kill Bill just didn't really interest me. I was not really into Tarantino at the time they came out, and even then, I'm not really that into Tarantino. I mean, yeah, I've seen Reservoir Dogs, I've seen Pulp Fiction, but that's kind of about it.
I've seen maybe pieces of Pulp Fiction, but that's all of Tarantino that I've ever seen. And
you guys.
I don't hate the guy.
Yeah,
I've got no problem with him making things.
The problem is that he keeps releasing stuff on Christmas. That's his problem.
Yeah, that might be my issue. Because I noticed that he has that release date.
Hey guys, I'll be right back.
That's cool. So,
I
in
think
that case,
Aldo.
We may have broken the Aldo. I don't know. All right. So while we are waiting for Aldo to get back, I don't think there's really a whole lot that we can add to Kill Bill 3, so we're not going to worry about it. But let's go ahead and get into the next story here, Omni, and this is one that we may have something to say about. So if people have, yeah,
I just saw the headline.
So a lot of people will be aware that the Hunger Games movies have since ended because Mockingjay Part 2 came out a couple of weeks ago. I have since done a review and breathed my sigh of relief because I don't have to go through that Prozac-induced fest ever again. But Lionsgate wants to further prolong my pain because they're actually wanting to look into doing prequels for the Hunger Games. Now, I looked everywhere to see if maybe they were going to get in touch with Suzanne Collins to see if maybe either A, she had these books written and they just wanted to get the adaptation rights, or if they wanted her to write these books. I have not been able to find out either or. And frankly, it just sounds to me like Lionsgate wants to half-ass this and put out 3 prequel movies, well, technically 4, I'm guessing, to set up the events of Katniss Everdeen.
Yeah, looking at it looks like they're probably trying to copy what Warner Brothers is looking to do with the Harry Potter franchise and how they're doing Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, that J.K. Rowling signed off on, actually wrote the screenplay for, and they're actually currently shooting now. And it's like, oh, it's a prequel / alternate story set in the Harry Potter universe. It looks like Lionsgate is wanting to do the same thing to compete with Warner Brothers, but it has the same problem that the Hunger Games franchise has. There's not that broad of an appeal, and looking at some of the mythos of the Hunger Games, the stories are going to be pretty boring because, I mean, yeah, you could focus on the initial rebellion against the government of Panem, but then after that you just got a bunch of straightforward Hunger Games tournaments. And that's it. And that happens for a good 75 years. It's like, oh yeah, well it'll basically just be like an action film franchise where it's like, oh, it's an even bigger arena, or the arena is this time in a desert. It's basically, I keep finding this funny thing of how people get obsessed over like the merchandising for the Hunger Games, like, and they have like Hunger Games themed weddings. If they make these films, it's gonna come full circle. It'll literally just be, oh yeah, we're gonna tune in to watch the latest Hunger Games movie, watch the latest iteration of people killing each other, children killing each other in an arena. We're literally turning into Panem people.
Well, in the other okay, so the other thing too is we also can't get any decision on what the prequels would be about. That's the other problem that you had with it. There's not a whole lot of lore to work with because basically Suzanne Collins wrote this as, this thing happened. This is what currently matters. This is what works. And so I've seen a couple of ideas happen. You need to show the first rebellion to show that the districts get put in line and put snow in there. And I'm like, well, okay, fine. As much as I'd like to see Donald Sutherland get work, I don't want him to phone that crap in. The other one that I saw, or when I did my homework, was that they wanted to do a prequel movie based off of the Quarter Quell that Hamish Abernathy is part of, which was the 50th Hunger Games, and do that whole side story of bringing him in and establishing his story. But Woody Harrelson wouldn't even need to be part of it, and it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for him to be a part of it.
And it'd be the bad kind of prequel where we know what's going to happen. There's not really any grand revelation we would need, because even with the first Hunger Game, it would basically be like the first Hunger Games, except with Haymitch instead of Katniss, and the end result would be the same. Like, intense post-traumatic stress disorder, followed by years and years of alcoholism. And that's it.
Yeah, there isn't... Look, I get that people want your Hunger Games fix. I get it. But there isn't the premise for that. The prequel, there is no prequel to this. There's not enough lore to be able to build that unless you want to do one based off of every stinking Hunger Games. And at this point, I would say, nope, enough is enough. I do not want to see children get murdered in an arena as an active franchise.
I do.
Oh.
Yeah, but the thing is that you can already see that. It's called Battle Royale.
Yeah, but I want more kids, Romney. I want more kids.
Well, Battle Royale, Dead Man Wonderland. I know there's a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, Dead Man Wonderland, yeah.
The Tomb, another good one.
Let's
I want this at a Hollywood budget, Romney.
I want to get your thoughts on Hunger Games prequels, which have no basis. I mean, Suzanne hasn't written these books, and it doesn't look like she's going to write them. It's just Lionsgate wanting to milk this cash cow. So what are your thoughts, Aldo?
Unless they got some solid writers involved, I would not be interested at all.
No.
I think the problem with the Hunger Games was that they already have a very hard to like protagonist.
Yes.
The books aren't necessarily that well written, and the franchise kind of goes off of its promised what's the word I'm looking for? Off of its promised premise, fairly early on, and we get stuck with half a book of Katniss in a bunker and nobody cares. So unless they got some solid writers involved or some really good directors involved, I wouldn't want to see this as a franchise.
No.
If to kind of do a callback, if you told me, okay, we're doing a movie based on like the 35th Hunger Games or whatever, but Quentin Tarantino's going to direct it, I'd be like, oh, I'm on board. If you told me J.J. Abrams is going to direct, the 25th Hunger Games, I'd be on board because I'd want to see what they would do, they would do with the arenas, that type of stuff.
Exactly. You'd want to see what that director would do with this property.
But apart from that, as a very obvious cash grab, I'm not sold.
No.
Yeah.
No.
I can't really see prequels. I could see sequels, just given the way the story ends and how the people who've taken over the Capitol force the children of the Capitol into their own version of the Hunger Games, basically bringing the revolution full circle. So I could see that as a sequel and almost kind of doing like what we mentioned with the whole revenge flick for Kill Bill Volume 3. I can almost see that with sequels saying, okay, well, we'll see basically history repeat itself, where now it's someone from the Capitol in this regime that was created at the end of the Hunger Games trilogy basically doing the inverse. And it could, I mean, if I were like in charge, I would probably do it as like a poetic thing of it's an endless cycle of violence, go kind of the whole Gundam endless waltz thing with it, where it's like saying it's just an endless cycle where one side takes over, then another takes over. I mean, a good example would be the book.
You know what? I'm sorry. Romney has made a compelling argument. I want Madi Maya to be running the Capitol. Well, I mean, Donald Sutherland had a granddaughter, so just name her Madi Maya, and I'm fine.
Oh yeah, and I mean, it could work because a good example of this would be the book Animal Farm, which is literally about farm animals overthrowing their human overlords, but then pigs end up being the ruling class, bringing the revolution full circle in the sense of they're right back where they started. It's just instead of humans, it's pigs. And that's what you could do with sequels to Hunger Games, where you would basically be, well, you just have it start all over again, just this time with the children of those who are in the capital being forced to fight instead of the outlying districts, because really that's one thing that bothers me about the story. It's like, why would they start doing the same exact thing that was causing the problem in the first place? Do they not see how this could affect them?
And the other problem is, and granted, I don't know the reach of Lionsgate here, but we already have 2 other series that are basically milking the Hunger Games for all they're worth. The Divergent series is trying to do that, and so is Maze Runner. And I believe Maze Runner doesn't even have books attached to it. It's just films. So
there are 4 books, and that's what they are adapting. The second one is Scorched Trials. So there are 4 books in total for the Maze Runner series that they are adapting.
So at this point, it just feels like these aren't attached to Lionsgate. I don't know if they're attached to them in any way, but it just sounds like Lionsgate doesn't want those to earn the money that they think they should be earning with Hunger Games. And so they're like, okay, well, we're going to do these prequels that don't make a whole lot of sense, but we're just going to make them. Because at that point, I actually see that bouncing back in their faces.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody sees them. So there isn't a whole lot to add on. Is there any other final thoughts that we want to add on Hunger Games possibly getting prequels that don't necessarily exist?
I would honestly be interested only to see different directors do different Hunger Games. Well, that's it. If no.
Yeah, it's like we said, there's just not really much of a story to tell. We've already saw the most. I mean, there's a key rule when it comes to screenwriting or writing of any kind. What is the most interesting aspect of your main character's life? And why are we not seeing it? And really, we've seen the most interesting aspect of this story. We don't have any reason to see any of this other crap.
I think honestly, I think the only actual character I would care about seeing would either be Beatty in his Hunger Games, or even Haymitch in his Hunger Game.
Yeah, that's actually one of the concept ones they were talking about, was doing the 50th Quarter Quell, which is the one where Haymitch walked away a victor.
And that's, the only reason I want to see that is because I want to see him drop the axe off the edge or whatever he did. Yeah. And then that's, I mean, I don't want to put up with 3 years of development of a movie ticket just to see that one scene. Somebody animate that for me.
Exactly. So let's go ahead and move on to the next story, which was, I believe, Aldo, you were the one that found this, and this... Okay. Excuse me.
Yes, I did.
So...
This is why we can't have nice things.
Yeah, that's pretty much it, Aldo. Thank you for pointing that out. I love fandom. I am a fan. I am a fan of many, many, many things. One of the ways that I would express my fandom is by wearing a t-shirt, by putting up a poster in my office. If people can't actually tell, in the back is actually a Captain America comic book cover. I'm a fan of Captain America, so I do that. Do you want to know one way that I would not show my fandom to an actor of a series that I love?
Physical assault?
Let's just say, for the sake of argument, I'm a fan of Laura Bailey. Do you want to know the last thing that I would do? Come up and bite her!
Oh.
Or since she's played Lust in Full Metal Alchemist, take my fingernails, make them into razor blades, and impale her with them. But
Was that her?
apparently, I am an outdated old fart geek because we've had this happen. And Aldo said it exactly right. This is why we can't have nice things. So, Norman Reedus, who plays Daryl Dixon on AMC's The Walking Dead, according to TMZ, was bitten by a fan at a zombie convention this weekend. Or last weekend, roughly. I'm just going to let this sink in for Romney, because Romney's just trying to process it.
Wow.
So
that's all I can really say is just wow.
So according to TMZ, superfan Robin Grover bit Reedus on the chest during a photo op at Walker Stalker Con after informing the actor she likes to tell people the two are married.
Yeah, that's
Back away, Norman. Back away slowly.
It's like, back away, not today, disco lady.
Thank you. I mean, I've heard of some pretty outlandish tales. Okay, I've heard apparently a woman actually came up to Harrison Ford in the Leia bikini and proposed to him. I've heard of stories involving the Next Generation cast, including Will Wheaton, apparently. But really biting him?
Yeah, I mean,
this is beyond fandom and more into obsession.
I mean, this is right up there with the woman who ambushed Tim Burton dressed as Catwoman in a bid to get the part in Batman Returns.
Oh, I forgot about that one. Damn it. Oh, I forgot about that one.
I mean, it's just funny because there actually is a response that the person posted on Instagram that somebody linked to in the comments. I'm gonna pull up screen share to kind of just show.
Please do.
Yeah, because
now apparently Reedus is a good sport about this stuff. So I'm just while you're working on that, he is a good sport about this, and he didn't press charges. However, he did put up a Twitter pic basically saying, "Do not bite me."
Oh yeah, it's like a pic of his character wearing a shirt saying "Do not bite me," and
do not bite
his
me.
text thing was like, "Please don't." And here is the Instagram for the post of the person in question. It says, "Finally meet the love of my life and get banned from the rest of the con and lose 2 more $100 photo ops with him because I lost my mind, got so excited standing beside him, and just turned my head and bit him. I don't know what came over me. It wasn't my intention to hurt him. I am sorry, Norman."
This is why we can't have nice things.
It's just more like this is why you need to know to control yourself. I mean, we get people are passionate, but yeah, it's just
there's a difference here between being just starstruck. Like I've had that happen. I've met podcasters and things like that I never thought I'd meet in my life, and just got absolutely starstruck. And I'm talking like, my mind goes blank. I had like 20 questions I'd love to ask them, and my mind went, I will admit that one of the things I wanted to do this last year at Salt Lake Comic-Con was get a photo op with Marina Sirtis. Not mainly because of Counselor Troy, but for the various voice roles she's done over the years. And I have a feeling that one of my reactions would be, pretty lady. But I'm not gonna bite her! I may ask to hug her. That's it. I'm not going to bite her.
Yeah, I mean, the fun thing I find funny is that people are immediately saying maybe she's a walker. But yeah, in all seriousness, if she somehow decides to watch while live streaming Google Hangouts between 10 to midnight, my only message is seek help.
Yes.
For your own sake, seek help.
Look, I'm all for being a fan of things, but there's a difference between fandom and obsession. And it seems to me like we didn't cross a line, we pole vaulted over one. Because Aldo is a fan of cosplay. He is not going to go up and do inappropriate behavior to the cosplayer. This is what I would categorize as inappropriate behavior. You shake their hand, you ask if maybe you can give them a hug, and you leave it at that. Dude, if I met Jason David Frank, I'd ask to give him a hug. I would. And if he said no, I'd respect that.
I think he would. His manager would tell you no. I know this from personal experience.
I'm not surprised by this at all. Like, his manager would probably come up and go $50.
Almost.
Yeah. So, but that's one of those things. Like, this is an appropriate response. I want to meet Jason David Frank because I appreciate that, I had Tommy to look up to as a kid. But at the same time, if I actually was able to hug him, I would not, bite him or try to fight him or anything like that. No, I would be very respectful. And that's what we do at these conventions, because these people don't have to make these public appearances. They don't. They get paid for them, but they don't have to make them. And I can already tell you that Norman Reedus is probably reconsidering whether or not he's going back to that con.
Yeah, I mean, although she was banned immediately after it happened, it's probably a case of if he does come back, it's going to be in a very, very limited capacity.
Well, I still remember the whole deal. I can't remember which Comic-Con it was. It was one of the California ones where Anthony Hopkins was set to go. He was doing a Thor panel, and then they had that stabbing happen, and that delayed things. And he got so mad. Like I think he even outright said, like, for Thor 2, he was not going to make appearances.
Ouch.
Which means also maybe Thor 3 he won't do it. Don't do that. So, all right, moving on, because I just see the look from Aldo of, like, we're talking about the biting lady. We're talking about no.
I mean, the biting lady should get together with Breaking Bad pizza guy and have a date. Where they...
The thing is, the difference is that there isn't a Breaking Bad pizza guy. It was multiple people.
Yeah,
throwing pizza on the house. So it'd be more like the Breaking Bad pizza crew meeting up.
Well,
bring the bucket. I mean, that should be like an artist name. We're the Breaking Bad pizza crew featuring the biting lady. Word, yo.
Damn it, Romney. That's gonna be a thing next week. All right, moving on. I gotta get that out of my head.
Broke me.
Well, our next story isn't really going to help get much out of your head, at least in my opinion. So
no, but this at least has to be covered. So this is actually a listener request, but I believe it was Alex that found the story for us. I actually didn't know this, but the Good Dinosaur, which is the most recent Pixar release, has hit the market and didn't do very well. It bombed fairly hard.
It's not that good of a movie, and so I can see why.
Oh, you've seen it. So
I've seen it. It was actually in my emergency triple feature as the second review. And I can see why it's bombing, because it's not that good. I mean, I thought Brave was like the worst, but this it's probably one of the most unfocused Pixar films I have ever seen.
Yeah, but I will also say, like, given the trailers that I saw for it, the premise wasn't all that solid to me. It just didn't stick out. So they actually do kind of point out the other fall disappointments in movies, like Pan. I didn't realize Pan did bad. Gem of the Holograms.
I didn't realize Pan
rightfully
was out.
so. That was part of the problem. Nobody really realized it was out.
Yeah.
I remember I tried getting past it to a screening of it, but I couldn't get to it in time. But really, nobody knew it was out. That's how little advertising it really got.
So apparently the film opened with a soft 39.1 million. Oh, man.
Yeah.
And they even point out that Brave opened with 66, so it's double that. And I mean, here's the thing that actually could have been said about Pixar for a while there, is even their bombs did well. And this now officially is like, holy crap, this is DreamWorks bad movie territory right here as far as money.
Yeah.
So, and then its second weekend only made 15.5. I'm curious how much the production budget was 200 million. This, I think it's fairly safe to say this film is in the red.
It is. I mean, 200 million to make it, 150 million pumped into marketing and merchandising, adding into other costs. They would have to make 500 million just to break even.
And they are nowhere near.
Not in the U.S. box office. It will. If this film is saved, it would have to be saved by the foreign box office, and basically,
which can technically happen.
I mean, that's why they still make Resident Evil movies, because they keep getting saved by the foreign box office.
Oh yeah.
But point being is that in the speculation is that they're predicting that it's gonna gross total of under 400 million worldwide by the time it ends its run. And
for
really,
the record, because I know that Aldo will bring this up, or Alex will bring it up later, yes, Pacific Rim was saved by the international box office. Okay, I get that. I still love Pacific Rim. So, yeah, this is basically... I'm kind of surprised this is the first box office bomb that Pixar has ever had. I would have thought that would have happened a while ago, but no. Good Dinosaur is it. Brave was probably the bomb before then, and now...
Well, it wasn't really a... The thing is, like, Brave didn't really bomb financially. It just was panned. It just had mixed reviews, and didn't do well critically. And I was like many other people who were really pissed off that it took home Best Animated Feature when it did not deserve it at all. Just, yeah.
It's a rip-off of Brother Bear. It's a female version of Brother Bear.
And not even that. It's just that there were much better animated movies that year. Yes. Paranorman should have won that award because it actually did something new and different. But nope. That's how rampant the nepotism is in the Academy. That's why I don't watch the Oscars anymore.
So I guess since the only person here who's seen it, because I could ask Aldo, but I don't think he'd be able to answer me.
I haven't seen it.
Romney, does it deserve this panning that it's gotten?
I think so. It's one of the most unfocused Pixar films. I mean, you could tell they thought of the concept, a boy and his dinosaur, but they could never find anything to actually give it its heart. Because a Pixar film always has a theme or an idea that is exploring, but it doesn't have that here. And they basically try to salvage it with a bunch of scenes that are basically characters giving pathos, trying to summarize the point of their film. And it does it 3 different times with 3 different messages. And so I'm just like, what the hell is this movie about? And that's really the big problem. And the whole journey of a kid getting back home to his family or trying to take a human back home to his family. Again, it really hurts me to say this, but Ice Age did it better. It did.
As much as I don't want to bring up Ice Age, it sounds to me like Ice Age did it better.
Yeah, and so really, as a Pixar film, the fact that this film had to be delayed really, really shows.
Ouch. All right, well, with that, let's go ahead and get into the next story here, and this is going to be trailer analysis. One of these films is not like the other. These 2 films got lots of listener suggestions asking for our opinions on it. Can people take a wild guess as to which one?
I don't know, to be honest. Actually, I do.
I think your reaction is prominent, so we'll go ahead and get into that one first, and that is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2. Now, people will remember that when we did our first group review, a lot of people think that the first group review was the one after. No, I consider the first one to be Ninja Turtles, Michael Bay's Ninja Turtles. When we reviewed that, we gave it crap. We gave it crap for an inconsistent story. We gave it crap for a lot of things. But I think overall, our viewpoint was, I want to say fairly positive, but
I think at the end of the day we said it was a fun movie, but that was about it.
It was. We gave it a fairly positive shake on the matter. So with that, when a sequel got announced, and I believe we actually did say if there was a sequel, we would give it a shot. And so now there is a sequel. And the trailer is out. We had covered a couple of things on this. We had covered the fact that Stephen Amell had been brought in as Casey Jones, and that we didn't have any thoughts on it because we hadn't seen anything. But at that point, I hadn't seen Arrow, but Aldo had, and liked the casting. I have since seen 2 seasons of Arrow, and I agree with the casting. I think it's worthwhile. I think Stephen Amell will do a good job. We also had heard the possibility of 2 of our most favorite mutants, Bebop and Rocksteady, making appearances in this film. What we hadn't heard about this film was that basically it's going to be a total homage to the 80s and 90s series, because that's what it is.
Yeah.
So Ninja Turtles 2, if you haven't seen the trailer yet, we'll put up the link in the description below. But the trailer is basically... I don't even know if we know the solid villain of it, because Shredder shows up, but I don't know if we can call him the villain.
I think it's supposed to be the Krang, because that was
I don't know.
That was a dimensional portal, and there were aliens and stuff.
So, yeah, because I can tell you right now, Shredder is a side villain as far as I'm concerned, and it would not be surprising to me if the Krang were the enemy in it. But there is a lot of nods to the old Fox animated series. First of all, the original look, when you see Bebop and Rocksteady on CG for the first time, they literally look like they were ripped out of the cartoon series and put into CG. Which is funny because we're still going with the funky turtle design.
Which I don't want to say I've grown to like. I've just grown indifferent to.
I was indifferent to them, and I've actually grown to have problems with them.
I was the opposite.
Yeah, because I mean, I still don't get why Leo has wooden armor. I still don't get why Raph looks like he raided some cosplayer's apartment to get his World of Warcraft pauldrons. I have just some issues with the overall look of them, but then you bring in Bebop and Rocksteady, it's like, well, if you made them look exactly the same, and everything in this trailer is an homage to the 90s series, why do we still have the Michael Bay Turtles?
Consistency.
Yeah.
That's just the honest truth of it, is that, well, we want it to be consistent, because even with all the live-action films in the past, the puppeteering was still moderately consistent. It just got steadily worse and worse with each iteration.
You know, and to kind of go off on that, in the same way that in the 80s we reused costumes, I'm pretty sure nowadays we reuse character models because it's just easier.
Yeah. So we also got to see our first look at Casey Jones. I would actually say we didn't get a whole lot of a look because he gets like maybe 30 seconds in the trailer.
If that.
And it's with the mask off, so we can tell it's Stephen Amell, but it's Casey being Casey. So
yeah, I mean, I don't think Casey is. I mean, granted, I haven't seen a whole lot of the Turtles franchise, in comics or TV shows or movies. I don't think he would be that hard of a character to mess up.
No,
I don't know though.
There's 2 ways that you could possibly play Casey Jones. One is the dark, brooding character, which, strangely enough, the 80s and 90s Fox series did. He was a dark, brooding character. Or you could take a more silly take to it, which the Nickelodeon series currently does with their kitty.
The 2000 series had a bit of a balance between the seriousness and the silliness.
I would actually dare say the closest that the Stephen Amell character is probably to the 2007 CG movie portrayal of Casey Jones, where he's a lazy guy who's just looking for the next bit of action in the middle of the night. That's at least how it looks like they're asking Stephen to portray him. But again, it's 30 seconds, so we really can't tell much out of it. I can tell you that Megan Fox is Megan Fox, because we actually had a moment where she's literally putting herself, or she's converting her newsgirl outfit into a sexy schoolgirl outfit. It's like, wow, we really can't give her any kind of acting cred, can we?
Well, I also don't think she has much of acting ability.
This is true.
No.
This is true.
I think this is the middle ground.
But at this point, I mean, I can't. Like, people are expecting me to rip this trailer a new one, and I can't do it because it's introduced enough to make me curious, to make me wonder, okay, have they learned from the mistakes of the previous movie enough so that we could actually have a good, fun thrill ride out of this movie? And for my part, I think we might.
I wouldn't say we're gonna. I mean, I'm not gonna say we're gonna have a good movie in terms of a story. I think we're gonna have a fun movie in terms of action scenes. Because there's a tank being driven by Bebop and Rocksteady coming out of the water. I am sold.
We got the turtle van in there. I actually kind of wondered if we got the turtle blimp too. Because there were a couple of aerial.
That for the third.
So, but I know we got the turtle van. We also got Michelangelo stepping up to Casey Jones, which was kind of funny.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of bringing back that consistency with the possible romance in the first movie. Well, at least in Mike's head that he has that romance, and so he starts stepping up to Casey. So, is there anything else that we can add to TMNT 2? I think we're gonna go see it, guys. I think it's on our list.
We're kind of obligated to at this point. I mean, we did say we'd check it out. People are gonna want us to. We just may not necessarily do unless we want to do the poetry style video that we did last time. Maybe we'll actually be able to can maintain the format on the second time around.
Probably. So let's go ahead and get into the second trailer, which was X-Men Apocalypse. I believe this is the first teaser that we've gotten.
Yeah.
The first teaser that we've gotten for it.
First trailer, yeah.
It's coming in May. We don't get a whole lot, but it's basically kind of setting the stakes up. It's showing our actor playing Apocalypse. It looks like it's going to work out fairly well, but we also get to see the introduction of new mutants, specifically like Jean Grey and Cyclops, and even Storm, who isn't necessarily an X-Man when, at least from what I could see in the trailer, it actually looks like she starts off on Apocalypse's side. So we get to have those moments. We also get to have great moments with Michael Fassbender and James McAvoy in their respective roles. I actually do admit I like the concept footage now, or the stills that we have of Magneto in red armor. I like that idea. I also like the introduction of Psylocke, because this is a mutant that I've wanted in these movies for quite a while.
I'm not sure how well Olivia Munn will be able to sell Psylocke.
I don't know either, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, we'll find out.
But I will admit I like the fact that Magneto is in red armor. I also found it interesting. I don't know if this has actually happened in the comics, but it almost felt like the trailer was trying to borrow from X-Men Evolution in how Apocalypse picks his four horsemen. Because we had mutants very similar getting picked that way. So we had Magneto getting picked as kind of a horseman. We also had we did get to see Archangel in there, yeah. And I think also Professor X is going to be one of them. And so it's very reminiscent of X-Men Evolution, where you actually had like these 4 pyramids across the world, and Storm and these other 3 get pulled in as guardians for those pyramids. And so I don't know if I necessarily would hate that. I also do like the fact that they kind of give this premise that Apocalypse can control mutants, although I don't think that was his power.
I don't know.
I don't. Apocalypse's powers have changed in comics so often; it's hard to keep track of now. But I did like the fact that they actually kept true to the old '90s design of Apocalypse with the blue armor.
I think his design still looks terrible.
I'm not as against it.
I don't know. I'm still not sold.
Like, later designs I've hated, so that's the thing.
I just don't understand how they can go full like comic book Psylocke, like leotard and everything, but we're having Ivan Ooze as
Or I
as
mean,
Apocalypse.
take that the next step. I mean, look at Magneto's armor and tell me that that's not full on '90s look.
Well, like that's exactly what I'm saying. Is like they're going full '90s, but they're still going with Ivan Ooze for Apocalypse instead of going full '90s Apocalypse.
Yeah, but at this point,
even Thanos looks like Thanos, and
yes,
he's ridiculous. He's as ridiculous as Apocalypse.
Yeah, this is true. But at this point, it's too soon to tell. I would actually like to see a little bit more in the next trailer on Apocalypse, and also the reveal at the end, which was basically showing off Professor X being Professor X, because James McAvoy loses all of those luscious locks.
I was a little sad about that.
To be I like the photo op at least because he does look like Patrick in those images.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my problem is it just I like McAvoy as is.
Yeah.
And I as cool as I think is that he's going full professor. It is like a little weird. It is going to be a little jarring seeing him go full bald because that is a very clean shaven head.
That is, yeah. I was looking like I had to look at that a couple of times just to see if I could see the skin cap, And no, it looks like he actually did shave his head. So sorry, James. Those luscious locks are going to be gone for a little while. Maybe they are gone. Maybe the what was the movie that just barely came out with him and Daniel Radcliffe?
Maybe that's a wig.
Maybe that's the wig. So I don't know. But yeah, that's the trailer analysis for TMNT 2 and X-Men Apocalypse. We're excited. I believe they're both on our list. I don't know if X-Men Apocalypse is necessarily on our group review list, but I do know that me and Alex are going to tackle it. I know Romney's going to tackle it.
Probably.
But if there's enough of a demand, guys, we'll put that on the list. We love hearing back from you guys, especially. So we're actually going to get ready to wrap things up because we are running a little bit late, but we do have a question of the night, and I'm going to try and narrow this down as much as so we have time to do either the question of the night or Aldo has a review, or at least I think I don't have a review? Okay. So
I haven't bothered. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's that bad, huh?
No, I haven't. So we're talking about The Dark Knight 3, The Master Race by Frank Miller.
Master Race.
The problem is I haven't read it, and I am literally sitting on, well, not literally, but I mean I am sitting on copies of Dark Knight Returns and Dark Knight Strikes Back because it's been a very long time since I read either of them. So I'm going to be reading Master Race as a brand new reader because I've forgotten a lot about the Dark Knight books. So I'm going to be coming in fairly fresh as, if I'm somebody who was born after the 80s, which I am, what would I think about Dark Knight through the Master Race? And then reading the other two books for context and research. So.
Okay, I look forward to that review then.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and hit the question of the night, which is a complex one, but I think we can narrow it down and we can figure this out. So, and like I told Romney, but Aldo doesn't know this, the fan question that we got for this was much longer than what you actually see in the show notes. So with the announcement of the NX, and that it's a successor to the Wii U and the 3DS, which I think they've actually reneged on that at this point, that it's a successor to both, but I'm not sure. Where do we see handheld gaming in the next generation? Do we see Nintendo staying in this market? Do we actually see Sony or Microsoft trying to make another attempt to enter this market? Or do we think mobile will be the new handheld gaming market? Now, I know there's a lot of questions in there, but we're going to hit them as best as we can. I can already tell you just from my kind of point of view, we don't know enough about the NX to make any kind of assessment. I know Nintendo has said this and that and the other, but until I see tech specs, until I actually see, not necessarily a prototype console, but until I can actually see what its OS is capable of doing, I don't want to make any kind of a judgment on it until then. I know what they've said. They've said this is a Wii U 3DS successor. They've also kind of reneged that because the 3DS is still doing very, very well, and they've actually come out and said 3DS isn't going anywhere. So I don't want to make any kind of assessment there, but where do we see handheld gaming going in the next generation? Personally, I think Nintendo has given you your answer. They are going to stay in the handheld market. In fact, one of the additional questions that this person asks was, do we eventually see Nintendo making cell phones? Nope. That's never going to happen.
I think the most we'll ever get to that will be to maybe the US getting what Japan has been getting for years, which is cell phone interactivity, but not so much. Like maybe some cell phone feed, like maybe a Nintendo 3DS 3G or probably the Nintendo 4G or something like that. I don't know.
And by interactivity, we're talking about something roughly similar to like your Google Watch interacting with your Android phone.
Well, like in Japan, they had accessories for your Game Boy Advance to connect to your cell phone to download like mini games and stuff like that. They've had that for years. Like the Nintendo, the original Nintendo had online connectivity to download games.
Yes. So with that, I think Nintendo is going to stay in the market. There's no indication saying they won't. They rule that market. The handheld market has been theirs for years.
And plus, it was what was keeping the company up when sales for the Wii U were down. Because the 3DS and the games were there, they were designed really well, people enjoyed the product, and so it would be foolish of them to suddenly not be in the mobile market.
Well, and on top of that, it recently also, the 3DS is doing well, and especially when you compare the console sales of, say, the newer consoles, even compared to the Wii U, the 3DS is doing well. It's still selling. So at that point, I don't see the 3DS going anywhere, and I certainly don't see Nintendo up and saying, no, we're never going to do a handheld market ever again. However, Sony and Microsoft, do I see Sony making an attempt again? I don't know.
They probably have more of a reason to try to kind of not necessarily leave the market, but try to not necessarily compete with their new handheld in the near future because of how because I remember even the PSP struggled against the DS, and the Vita is more or less a failure at this point for Sony, and so they probably have more of a reason to not trying to get into the market in the traditional, we're going to release a handheld. They may do something kind of similar to what Nintendo's starting to do, where they may work with mobile phone developers and try to get in through the apps that way, especially since Sony makes computers in addition to consoles. And so that probably would be one way they would try to enter the handheld market to kind of grab a foothold. But I personally find it highly doubtful that we'll see another dedicated gaming Sony handheld in the next generation, just because of how badly the Vita did.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Sony, at least for one last time, attempt another like gaming-centric cell phone like they did with the Xperia Play.
Yeah.
I think the problem with the Xperia Play was the fact that they were trying to dip their hands in two different mobile markets, and that confused people.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
In Microsoft's defense, because we've talked a lot of Sony, I think Microsoft has also given you their answer because of the Windows Phone and the fact that it's interactive with the Xbox One. So I don't think, like, a lot of people have been asking if Microsoft is ever going to make a handheld. I don't think it's ever been their intention to make one. So it's just not in the cards for them. Sorry, go ahead, Aldo. I wanted to throw that part into the equation.
Oh no. I mean, I think you're right, and I think we've also pretty much, like you said, we've heard from Microsoft, and I think the closest we're gonna get to mobile gaming for Microsoft is gonna be whatever games they make compatible with their tablets.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that'll be it.
I think that's exactly it. So I'm trying to remember what Sony's tablet is. Is that the Nexus?
No, that's Google.
That's Google. Okay, that's Google. I know Sony has a tablet, but I'm not sure which one it is. It might be Xperia. That sounds familiar.
It's something like that.
So that's the other thing, too, is that when Sony and Microsoft are looking at this, they probably are looking at it from the angle of, it would make more sense for them to go into the mobile market, which has a bigger audience, and try to work that instead of trying to make like a Vita 2.
Yeah.
Which I don't see Sony doing. I think Sony has learned their lesson from the Vita, and that lesson is that Nintendo rules this market. That there really isn't anything they could do for it, which is disappointing to me, because I actually do think the PSP and the Vita had some worthwhile titles. And I would like to see some competition come to Nintendo in that market, because I think it does make Nintendo better, just as much as it makes Sony better. But Sony and Microsoft, I think, have made their answer on this. They really are more focused on the mobile market and trying to get people to buy their tablets and try to buy their phones so that you can access those. I mean, I just barely saw the news that Cortana, which was specifically a Windows thing, is now being brought over to Android. So that's just, to me, that's expansion for Microsoft to bring Cortana to Android phones and get even more recognition. Which is still funny because of Halo. But to go on to the next one, do we think mobile gaming is going to be the new handheld gaming market? And I don't know if I necessarily agree with that.
It probably wouldn't be a whole like all or nothing sort of thing. I mean, yeah, Nintendo will probably still be in the market in some capacity.
Yeah.
It just may not necessarily be where it's all on smartphones. It'll just be a case of we'll probably have more devices that are multi-purpose, be they phones or tablets, that may just have some proprietary OS or proprietary software needed to run. Nintendo may still make dedicated handheld consoles because there is a market there. But in the case of Microsoft and Sony, they'll probably think, yeah, let's stick with this mobile market because, one, easier to develop for, because Sony and Microsoft have gone on record in the past showing that they are willing to use non-proprietary hardware to create their products. That way it makes it easier for people to repair it, makes it easier for people to develop for it. I mean, that's why so many games were made for the Sony PlayStation at launch, was because they made it easier to develop for it. And so really, it's not going to be a case where mobile gaming is going to become the huge handheld thing that everybody, that is the only thing on the market. It's just, it'll pretty much be, you'll have your Nintendo handheld, and then the mobile market will basically just be like the PlayStation, where it's easier to develop for, so there's just more available for it. Granted, we already have plenty of shovelware in the mobile market, and that's probably not going to change anytime soon. But that's where I see it, is that Nintendo's still going to keep their foothold on the market. I mean, yeah, they're going with mobile apps and stuff like that, but they know there's a market for their handheld console. They're just going to probably have some sort of hybridized thing of the two, where most we'd probably get from them would be a fancy tablet with a Nintendo-designed OS using Nintendo-designed hardware for the Nintendo fans, and then you'd have everything else.
That's exactly it. It would be completely Nintendo designed, and it would be Nintendo friendly. It's not like Nintendo is going to make an Android phone. That's not going to happen, people. Nintendo likes making their own unique consoles and systems. So,
especially with the Android OS, like there are some security risks with the Android OS, and Nintendo would definitely want to mitigate that, because they're still seen as the family-friendly Disney company.
I still think they would internally just design their own, and just leave it at that. But, I mean, I kind of agree with Romney here. I think that there will be handheld consoles as long as Nintendo is willing to make them, mainly because there are franchises for those consoles. Pokemon has been a very thriving franchise for handheld markets. As much as I would love to see them on consoles, I'm thoroughly convinced they will never hit it. With the addition that they brought over Yokai Watch, which is a popular Japanese handheld series, and brought them onto this one. Fire Emblem has done fairly well, I know, on the handhelds here. I love the fact that Capcom is still making Ace Attorney games for the handhelds. I mean, we just barely got the announcement for Ace Attorney 6, which looks weird, by the way.
Yeah, but
was I the only one that thought the prosecutor was Maya?
I saw it subbed, and so I figured, the village is called Kurain, so Maya's ancestry is probably going to be tied to it somehow. But yeah, it goes back, because even Capcom is a good example, because with Ace Attorney, they hedge their bets. They make it for the Nintendo handhelds, but they also make it for mobile phones. I mean, you can literally, if you have an iPhone or an Android phone, you can get the first 3 Ace Attorney games on your smartphone. If because Capcom likes to hedge their bets. And that's the other key thing that's really going to decide it, is what the third parties are going to do.
Yeah, that's really the bigger things. I mean, we're already going to see some third parties drop off. We're not going to see a Konami property for, I don't think, ever. I don't think
a pachinko game and for mobile phones, but
I'm trying to think. Does Koei Tecmo make anything for the 3DS?
They did port Dead or Alive for the 3DS. They still.
I mean, aside from Hyrule Warriors, because Koei's
there was
that.
Well, yeah, like they did Hyrule Warriors. They did Dead or Alive Dimensions. They're still making Ninja Gaiden games, and some of those have been on Nintendo consoles. So they do still make stuff for Nintendo, especially since they're trying to kind of get in the good graces after things with Hyrule Warriors and Metroid Other M. So they probably will still be making stuff for Nintendo. They'll just have to, know their audience. I mean, you're not going to see Dead or Alive Extreme on a Nintendo console. I can promise you that.
But yeah, we do have some third-party developers who would love to make things for 3DS, 4DS, whatever they want to call the next one. If anything, like, let's just say for the sake of argument that this is a 3DS successor for the NX. If anything, I would actually see there's just more interactivity with it on the console than they've ever done before. So at that point, I really do think Nintendo will stay in the market, or stay in the handheld market. They'll probably rule it for a good amount of time. They'll work out deals with third parties like Square Enix and whatnot to make those games that aren't going to be able to make it any other way. But do I see the mobile market encompassing the handheld market? No, I don't, because they're just two separate beasts. Especially the mobile market and the level of shovelware that gets put out on there. The amount of free-to-play on there, I don't see them even remotely competing with each other, because it's a whole other animal to try and make work. Aldo, do you have any thoughts on any of this? Because you've been kind of quiet on the matter.
I mean, not really. I think Nintendo has such a stranglehold on the portable market, and I think they love the portable market. I don't think they'll let go of it, especially considering that they have a stranglehold on it. I don't think they will even consider going out of it as long as they don't really have any real competition in it. And honestly, I love the fact that Nintendo makes stuff portable, because it means I get to take these fantastic, like, Fire Emblem and Pokemon and all these other great games with great stories, and I get to take them with me, which means I'm not tied down to my couch and TV.
Yeah.
Which, is nice. But at the same time, they're kind of expanding into the mobile market. I mean, I play Pokemon Shuffle on my phone. And I think there's something else on there, and they're kind of playing with that mobile market, so there's not that much. But I mean, if you remember, they did have that contract with Dina about making some Nintendo games for the mobile market.
Yep.
And plus, we've got Pokemon Go on the horizon.
Yeah. So
Go. We also have the Me Parade app that's going to be coming out soon.
So I think we'll get some slim pickings for cell phones and stuff from Nintendo, but I think as long as Nintendo continues to make successors to the Game Boy and the DS system, I don't think that type of portable gaming will go away anytime soon.
Okay. So with that, let's go ahead and wrap things up for the evening, because I think we've pretty much hit all the points here. So while we're also wrapping things up, we also do a one cool thing. If you guys have a one cool thing that you would like to bring to people's attention, then you can do that in the middle of your outro. But yeah, if people want to get a hold of us for our various opinions on the stories that were portrayed, Aldo, if people want to get a hold of you and tell you that biting an actual actor is a worthwhile thing to do, and it is the utmost form of respect that you can show to a cosplayer, to an actor, to anybody, how do they get a hold of you to convey that?
I mean, the first thing I'm going to tell you is to probably seek some professional medical help. But if you want to still reach out to me, you can reach out to me on Twitter at Aldo531. You can also go on my personal channel at Board Offline on YouTube, youtube.com/BoardOffline. You can also find me on the Reviews versus the World podcast. And not like one cool thing, but just kind of a quick announcement. I have to upload the video probably tomorrow morning, but I will be, alongside Alex, I will be participating in the 12 Days of Anime. So
Okay.
that
Very
will
nice.
be fun.
All right. Out of curiosity, are you guys doing anything together or just participating in the event?
I don't think he knows.
Okay.
I saw
Well,
I
he
saw
knows
his
now.
Yeah, I saw his video and I was like, I should do that. I
Yeah.
should do that too.
All right. And Romney, if people want to get a hold of you to tell you that it is actually offensive to not have a woman of the exact same race and sexual orientation and whatever other specifics that they can find, demographic, socioeconomic status, and all of that to play a proper character in a video game or in an animation or whatever, and that is the reason why The Good Dinosaur failed, how do they get a hold of you, Ronnie?
Okay, first off, that's like a huge leap in logic. So, I just tried to connect it to The Good Dinosaur.
That's because it failed because we didn't have real dinosaurs voicing the dinosaurs.
That's exactly the problem. We don't have Jurassic Park, and therefore that's why that movie failed.
You can always find me at youtube.com/StudioPhantasma. That is Phantasma with an F. You can also find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Romney'sReviews. That's no apostrophe. And I am Romney Reviews on Twitter. No apostrophe S. I couldn't fit it in. Twitter wouldn't let me. And as for my one cool thing this week, I would recommend The Broker by John Grisham. I listened to this audio book out of desperation because my mom had it lying around. Long story short, we got a bunch of DVDs and stuff from my aunt, who works at a Walmart, so she gave us a bunch of stuff that she was getting rid of because she was moving to a new house. And in it was the audiobook for The Broker by John Grisham, and my iPod was broken, so I figured, okay, well, I don't have anything else to listen to at work, and it's actually a good story. I mean, it shows that John Grisham is actually a good writer. The basic premise is that a power broker / lobbyist is suddenly pardoned by the president in the waning hours of his presidency. And the reason is because the president was convinced by the CIA because he has access to the codes of this really super powerful satellite that so many people want. The US wants it, Israel wants it, China wants it, India wants it, the Saudis want it. And so the idea is, okay, we'll pardon this guy, and we'll see which one kills him, and that'll tell us whose satellite it was. And they basically take this broker, give him a new identity, and drop him in the middle of Italy. And it is a very good, it was good listening to it. It's read by Dennis Boutsikaris, but it's a really good story, really riveting. I mean, you think it's going to play out like an action film at the end, but the way it ends, the way the character actually goes through the scenario is really good. John Grisham is a good writer. So that's my one cool thing this week. The Broker by John Grisham.
All right. So, if people want to get a hold of Alex, because Alex unfortunately is not here, hopefully he is okay. He had to work tonight, and I don't know if he took his padding with him, but hopefully he is okay, and he has not gotten trampled. But we will double check that with him soon. If people want to follow him, you can follow him at his YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/ShadowBlazer3000. He is an animated reviewer on YouTube. He does a bunch of other things, including we actually brought it up. Long Live the Queen. He's actually started doing live streams and Let's Plays on his channel. And he is also doing the 12 Days of Anime, like Aldo actually mentioned. And the most recent one that he has put up is Tamako Love Story. So you guys can look forward to that. And he's done editorials and a dozen other things on there, so you guys can look forward to that. If you guys want to follow him on Twitter, it is AlexJShort. And, yeah, you can get opinions from him on what he thinks about the most recent anime, or I actually know one of the anime that he is going to be doing, and I don't know if I can actually say it, so maybe I'll keep quiet for now. But it is for 12 days. If people want to get a hold of me, there are two ways to do it. One is my actual channel, which is youtube.com/Drac2326. That is where Geek News is hosted. Not that other channel. Here. It is hosted here. You can get all of the episodes in one neat little playlist, and you can always have fun like we do on these episodes. There are two other episodes in the playlist that were done by Romney and Alex. They are on the playlist, though. So I'm not going to submit a complaint to YouTube for pirating my content. I promise.
Maybe because you have no content to submit to say that we pirated.
Exactly. Especially when you guys can bounce back saying he gave me permission.
It's documented.
So
It's documented. Yeah, right. There you go. You can also follow me on Twitter, and it's the exact same handle, Drac2326, and you can get my opinion on the stories that may be covered. You can also get my opinions on, say, games and whatnot. I also do. I've begun doing video game reviews. I'm currently working on my review of Xenoblade Chronicles X, but you guys can look forward to the other 2 reviews that I have put up thus far. If you guys want to get a hold of Geek News directly, there are 3 ways to do it. One is our email address, which is geekyweek@gmail.com. You can leave stories that you would like us to cover and also give a good reason on whether or not we can do it. If your reason is because this person is stupid, I may not take you that seriously, which we got a lot of this week and I didn't appreciate. So please don't give me that premise, just why you want us to cover it. Or if you want specifically one person's opinion, that's not always a selling point either, because sometimes that doesn't work. That's why we get a lot of Blizzard stories, and I can't do them on this podcast. Sorry. So the second way is on Twitter, and that is at geekynro, and you can get up-to-the-minute information when we're going live, the stories that we're going to be covering, and also whether or not we would love to have a second opinion from you guys, because we do love to hear from you guys on these stories. The third way is on Facebook. You can go to Facebook and look up Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions and like it. And again, you'll get up-to-the-minute information when we're going live, whether or not we're actually going to miss a week, things like that. And we also do leave stories up there to get you guys' feedback on. Specifically, I'm regretting putting up the Fox newscaster because I got a lot of people screaming that I was unfair to the woman. So with that, we also have a little bit of business to brush under the rug here really quick. Because I have been getting questions on this. And so, first of all, how are we doing The Force Awakens? We're gonna have an episode next week, but earlier in the day, the 4 of us will actually get together and meet and watch Star Wars The Force Awakens. So at that point, just like we've done with Attack on Titan, we will come here and we will do a review on Star Wars: The Force Awakens as our group review. So we will have an episode next week, but the following week, since that is right after Christmas, I think it's fairly safe to say there will not be an episode. So just because that's family time, people, and I want to be able to take that time with my family as well as be able to let the panelists also take that time. But the following week for New Year's, we will probably have an episode. I will need to double check with the panelists, but right now I'm thinking it probably will happen because New Year's Day will be after or it will be after New Year's Day.
It'll be after New Year's Day, which means any hungovers we might have had will have slept off by then.
Well,
exactly.
Maybe.
Depends. It depends. That may be the weekend that Aldo decides to just crash through the Master Race, and he's going to need that extra special hangover to get through it.
Yeah, or just watch it. It'll be Aldo doing drunk reviews.
You know what? I'd still want him to do it. I know that's bad of me to say, but I'd still want him to do it. So, in the meantime, though, that's going to go ahead and do it for us this week. So, we will see you guys next week for even more Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions. So, for me, for Aldo, for Alex, and for Omni, we'll see you next week. Don't bite us, please.